from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Monday, August 19th, and it is a preseason victory Monday. They played on Saturday. I was at a wedding, was not able to see it. Got to watch it the following day. But we are here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Don't forget, subscribe, leave a 5-star review if you're listening on any podcast platform besides Apple, because we're not friends with Apple right now. But every other podcast platform, leave a 5-star review. Buy your merch, officialctsports.com. Boys, Lions looked pretty good on Saturday. The Chiefs played their starters for at least, the first half, and got a pretty good result. Jake Bates game-winning kick, which we will get to at some point today.
Hey, good Lions dub. It's always a good time when the Lions win. Even preseason, we're getting ready. It's like a warm up to the main fight, the main card. That's all that was on Saturday. It felt good to be back again and things rolling.
Yeah,
Booner
great.
Just started.
First victory Monday. Shout out Aaron Glenn for that defensive performance against the Chiefs starters. And then speaking of cards, Jeff, what did you? I know it's kind of just a drastic shift here, but UFC, Izzy, what did you think of that? I haven't talked to you about that yet.
Oh, it was bad. Yeah, Booner, we watched it too. Had some money. It was not good. You know what? Unlike the Lions, he was not able to get it done. All right, and the Lions actually, it's funny enough. The Izzy has had a run, no longer. Not like the Lions window, which we talk about. Izzy's window, pretty big, but it's closing now. And he looks great in that fight, by the way. He was
Booner path for Izzy.
He was winning on the standing up, but he got absolutely destroyed. And he just got caught, and it happens in the UFC. And unlike the NFL, that's why there's certain sports I love watching. Like I love watching the UFC for that reason, because a guy could be winning, and then all of a sudden that happens. And then you have like the game the Lions had on Saturday where it was just an ugly first half. And then you get to the second half, the Lions end up pulling it out, winning by a field goal by a guy who we talked about a lot on this show that were kind of in question about whether or not he could kick in pressure situations. And the dude was perfect on Saturday. He was 4 for 4. And you tweeted this out, Booner, which I'll show on the screen. He was clutch. Unlike Izzy, Jake Bates was clutch. And look at this. And this is something we've saw in camp too, like the accuracy. He was 4 for 4. He made one from 55, 43, 32, and 23, and had a 43-yard game winner. That was the 43-yarder he made. So for a guy that, again, accuracy and from distance, and not just from distance, but within 40 to 50, he looks great on really all levels. I mean, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, and 50 yards. Dude was money.
Yeah, I mean, he did miss too, and people are putting in the chat. He did miss an extra point, but like for me, it's like the ones that are worth 3. And I said this on the stream, like the ones that are worth 3, like if you're making those, and like Brandon Joseph last year missed a handful of extra points. I'm sure Justin Tucker, like what people don't realize, the extra point is no longer a chip shot. It's a 34, 35-yard field goal as well. So like that would have been like, if you look at the 4 that he made, it's right in the middle. Like he missed the third longest one that he took of the day. So like it's not like, yeah, he needs to make his extra points. That's something I'm sure this guy needs to learn. And like as he builds his confidence, he's going to kind of get more consistent. Like Dan has full confidence in this kid, and like they're not going to go out and get another kicker. I think like Saturday, watching the game, it solidifies like they are rolling with Jake Bates one way or another. Like, unless he is absolutely falls apart at some point throughout the season and he misses like 4 straight field goals, or it's just everything goes downhill and crumbles for this kid is your kicker for the Detroit Lions for the future. And like, even when Badgley, if he's back and under, like this kid is your guy. And like for him to go out there and Klotz, like this was the conversation we had months ago about Bates, was like, can he handle under pressure in the NFL? I know it was a preseason game, but he's in the defending champs, Kansas City's stadium. It was packed there. There's the fans showed out. It was packed, and it felt like like not that meaningful of a regular season game, but it felt like it was a little bit of a regular season game because you're out there with a full crowd and the game is on the line for you to win the game. And he goes out there and he does it straight down the middle and wins the game. And he did it with all of the other kicks that he had, the 50-yarder, the 20, the 30, and the 40. Like he did it with every kick he had. And if this guy just gets consistent, it is over. Like he is our kicker for, I think we signed him for like a 2-year deal. I like Jake Bates. I'm all in. We're gonna have a lot of Victory Mondays, boys, after Jake Bates field goals and wins. We're gonna have a lot of them. This isn't just the only one. There's gonna be a lot this season.
Yeah, no, Jake Bates, I mean, against the Giants in rough conditions, he was able to hit a 50-plus yarder. And to Booner's point, yeah, he missed an extra point, but then Jeff even said it. He hit from 20, 30, 40, and 50. And for a guy like me that's very skeptical of Jake Bates coming in the regular season, what he's done in the preseason has made me a lot more confident in what he's been able to do. I think the extra points, I think that's just a rhythm thing where it's like exact yardage every time. So, Booner, to your point, the more he's able just to get in a flow, into a rhythm, there's no doubt he's this team's kicker. I think after Dan sat him down, it was like, we trust in you. They haven't signed another kicker. They haven't done anything. So Jake Bates is for sure this team's kicker. And I'm a lot more confident now than I was heading into this offseason thinking about that idea.
Yeah, Legatron. Raise the
Legatron. I love hey.
Legatron. Raise the sail, says in the chat. And Bon J says, all due respect, Boone, but Arrowhead was mostly empty from what I saw.
Hey, I saw some.
I have the attendance. You want me to tell you the attendance?
I saw there was a lot of people. I saw people tweeting out the attendance. I saw people showing videos, and there was people in attendance.
There was 73,000 people there. So,
it was empty. Maybe at points it was empty, but
yeah,
of
course. I mean, yeah, but
tell there was people.
Starters are out there.
At some point, there were 73,000, roughly, a little more than that. But that's what we talk about with Jake Bates is pressure situations. And although it's preseason, which we have already stated, that's still game. I don't care what it is. Game winner in Arrowhead, in Kansas City, with 70,000 people in attendance. No matter if 15,000 people left, who cares? That's still a lot of people in attendance watching this man try and hit a game winner. And he did it from 40 yards. It wasn't a gimme either. So Jake Bates, love it. There's a reason they haven't signed another kicker. Obviously, they like this dude, and they're going to let him develop even into someone who's more consistent, more comfortable in the regular season. And I know someone asked him, I don't remember who it is. I wish I did, but someone asked him the thing we debated and we talked about more so, not debated. Yeah. If it changes Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, and he already came out and was like, I don't know. You ask me when the game comes. And that was the thing we'd mentioned. It's like, I don't think it's going to change Dan Campbell's approach, but just to have someone that can hit from distance, yeah, it helps. And I think he's going to be more consistent than Badgley, definitely from farther out, I'll say. From farther out, definitely.
Yeah, he didn't mention. He just said, like, it's good to have the weapons, whether it's on, like, special teams, defense, offense. Like, just to have that there in your bag to be able to say, like, hey, if we need a 60-yarder to go win a game, we have that just sitting there. Like, that's in our arsenal. And I think that's something that Dan hasn't had in his arsenal in Detroit. So now you have a kid that can do that, and you're sitting in the back of your head. And Dan, like, obviously he's probably going to make the same decisions, and he's going to go for it a ton. And he's going to make sure, like, he's going to be an aggressive Dan Campbell. But, like, that's in the back of your head. Like, if a game's on the line, it's a 2-point game, and you're marching down the field instead of having to go for, get up to the 30-yard line. Now you have it in your arsenal. You just have to get to the 45, and you can kick a 60-something yarder. Like, it's a big difference. It's a big difference for, I think, especially in offense, knowing, like, a game-winning drive, we only have to get to, like, a 45 instead of having to get 15 more yards down the field. Mm-hmm. Like, I think there's that side of it as well, too, that people don't think about.
Yeah, and again, there's more that came out of it, too. I mean, you talk about the game itself and the player that didn't play, because we'll get to more standouts in Hendon Hooker in a little bit here. We'll get to Hendon. We'll get to Isaiah Williams. We'll get to all of that. But a player that we've been waiting on to see news from was DJ Reader, and we got some updates. Shout out to the doc, because the doc provided us with updates. And he had an interview with DJ Reader today, like the doc, just making the moves he does. And DJ provided more insight to kind of his timetable. And he answered with that question, no real timetable. I know I'm feeling really well and been moving pretty good. And he also mentioned that he had a scope conducted on his right knee back in June. So if I had to give you my opinion, it's still what I said last week. I think he's out week 1. That's just me at least. But we've talked about this all the time. Not much to really add. We all agree that you want that dude for the postseason. So shout out to the doc for getting that interview. You can check it out more. Detroit Lions at Sports Illustrated. Show him some love, and you can read more and listen to what they talked about and read about it. But yeah,
does that worry you guys at all? Like DJ Reader's just like, we don't have a timetable. Like, is it like 4 weeks, 6 weeks? Is it 2 months? Like, he got a knee scope.
I don't think anything changes because, I mean, a scope's really not that serious. All it is really like Frank had a scope last year, like on his foot. Like when you're getting a scope, it's really just cleaning up like scar tissue and stuff like that. Like there's nothing really to re-aggravate. So I'm not really worried about that. Nothing changes. I just think he's on schedule for where he was before. So for me, I think the timetable still is the same. He probably doesn't know like, okay, I could start from week 1 or I could start at week 4. So he probably doesn't want to set a deadline out for himself for the fans to be like, okay, DJ, we're expecting you week 2, but in reality, he's week 3. So he's probably just trying to keep everything low key. Just as it comes, he'll be out there. I think when you have Levi Onwuzurike looking how he does, when you have Broderick Martin showing some flashes in preseason, same with Josh Pascal, and then obviously Lee McNeil, they can afford to be in a spot when you can have a veteran like DJ Reader kind of sit and get healthy, because the last thing you want to do is rush DJ Reader back, and especially with a quad injury, him re-aggravate that. And I mean, a veteran with the amount of weight that DJ Reader carries, it's going to take him long to recover. So don't risk it whatsoever. Yeah. But no, I'm not worried at all.
I'm not either. I mean, I agree with everything Klotz just said there. He's not someone that I think if he's out week 1, week 2, week 3, if he's out a couple weeks, I'm not as upset if he were to be out the end of the year. Mm-hmm. I'll say that.
Yeah. I just more so, it's just like there's been no conversation about DJ Reader from the coaching staff and the players or anything. And it's just like, hey, like usually with the player, like they say, hey, maybe we're expecting him week 1, or hey, he's not going to be ready week 1. It's just like, hey, everyone's just like, we don't know. They're just like, hey, we have no clue. That is a little like, what's going on here?
And it's probably something you don't want to rush either. Like if you put a timetable on it, then the pressure, comes into where you want to get them ready by that certain date. I think at this point, you don't want to put a timetable on something that you're not rushing. You're just kind of like, hey, when the guy starts feeling well, we'll work back, and you want him to be 100% healthy. It probably makes more sense to not put a timetable on his injury. Like just let the guy come back when he feels 100%. I know a guy who feels 100% after taking a concussion last week. And that's Hendon Hooker. Because the Detroit Lions put out, and listen, Nate Sudfeld actually, to start the game, I can't believe it's not saying much better, but is that saying much given how bad he looked against the Giants? No. And then Hendon Hooker came in, and he was the player of the game according to the Lions, the Meyer player of the game, 12 of 15, and he did start 0 for 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Started 0 for 2.
Bad miss too on one of them.
Yep. Bad miss too. And then he finished the game. So what would that be? I guess 12 of 13 after that. So he missed one throw after that. And then he had 150 passing yards, 108.3 quarterback rating, and a rushing TD. Had a fumble as well. Had a pretty big fumble. But he recovered, game-winning drive, and then, of course, Jake Bates finished it off. But, boys, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Hendon Hooker.
Remiss.
I would if I didn't bring him up. He did look very, very good for the most part. Mistakes, of course, there's going to be those. Not saying the guy's perfect, but when you look at what he's been since we first talked about him in OTAs and minicamp to training camp to now, the progression is there, and that's kind of what we've talked about now with Hendon Hooker. And this is why I made the case last week that I think, for the regular season, and I wasn't mad at people saying bring in this quarterback, bring in that quarterback to be your quarterback too. I get all that. But the point I was making is with time and with development, I think that's something that every snap's going to matter for Hendon. He's going to continuously get better. And I think by the time you need him, which you might not need him at all, Jared will probably most likely play the whole entire regular season. But if there is a game, let's say in the middle point of the season, I have confidence that he will be ready to back up Jared at that point, given there'll be more time. And he'll be able to go against the ones and go against the twos in practice. He'll be moving up the depth chart. Like I think there'll be that development, and he'll be ready. So I made the case that he could be quarterback too. And I think on Saturday, I'm more confident in that statement, given who's out there as well. I don't think Ryan Tannehill's realistic. He's obviously better than Jake Fromm and Nate Sudfeld. And I think you fellas, you're looking right at your quarterback too on Saturday. I
mean, hey, Jeff, I wrote it in my notes. I told you before the show, I said I wrote one thing for Hendon Hooker in my notes. And it just says credit Jeff. Credit, give Jeff some credit. So there you go. I'll give you a little bit of credit, because there was like the time, and I said this too before the show. It's like there was a time a couple weeks ago, like if you went to training camp, and if there's people in the chat who are at training camp, it was very well known that like if you just sat there for an hour and watched Hendon Hooker, like he was struggling on throws. And
Right.
there were progressions he was struggling with and things that he was just, you could tell. And then you saw him get taken to the side with some quarterback coaches and just working one-on-one while they're doing 11 on 11. And they're just like, hey, just working with them. Like, I think the thing that like I've seen the last 2 weeks out of Hendon Hooker, it's the only thing you can't deny is this kid is talented. Like, he's got all the talent in the world. Like, he's mobile. He's got an arm. And when it comes down to it, like what we saw Saturday, he can make decisions and he makes the right ones. So like everything, like he has it all. It's just about like getting consistent and doing it. So you give him some time. I think like right now, like I feel comfortable. And I said this before the preseason. I think we all agreed with this. Before preseason, it was, hey, we just need to see it in the preseason games. And then we can, after that, we were going to be like, all right, do we need to go get someone? I said earlier in the week, I said, depending on what happened Saturday or last week, on Saturday and Thursday with Hendon Hooker, then we can hit the red button. And we saw the 2 games, and we don't have to hit the red button because I think, like, hey, Hendon Hooker is going to be fine if you do need him for a game or 2. Like, they will find a way, and Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, they will find a way. And it feels like a little bit so, too. Like, they're thinking about his development like the Green Bay Packers do with, like, Jordan Love. Like, hey, this is like a 3-year thing. This is a 2-year thing. Like, we have Jared Goff, and we're going to go win a couple Super Bowls in the next 2 or 3 years, and then we can evaluate from there. Like, I think his contract's up in 2026. So, like, 2026. All right, we can evaluate. Do we want to extend him for a year or 2, just like Jordan Love did, got extended for a year or 2, or like how do we want to go about that? So that's what I'm. Hey, we've got a backup now. That's all that matters. I don't think, and I hate the people too. And this is Jeff, where I was like, we're not battling on this today, where it's like we can victory lap it. I think, like I said, I give you credit, but it was always we have to see it first. Like they're like, I get, like, he was always talented. Like, I watched a lot of him at Tennessee. The talent was through the roof. You had to see it, especially after sitting out for a year with an ACL and then going what we saw at training camp. It was like, all right, what's going on with this kid? Looked good. Like he looked really good on Saturday. He did have a couple, and Dan said it too in the press conference. He had a couple slip ups, but he did. But that's going to come with time. That was his second NFL game.
Yeah. I mean, I think Hendon Hooker, he's the clear quarterback too. There's no denying it. Nate Sudfeld, I still think, is probably hanging on by a roster spot at this point if somebody that's notable gets cut around the league. But I think this just shows the difference between preseason games and joint practices specifically for quarterbacks, because Hendon Hooker compared to Nate Sudfeld, pocket mobility is everything. And I know that Hendon took a couple of sacks, but Hendon's a guy that, one, brings a different dynamic to this offense. So knock on wood, Jared Goff gets a concussion. I think prime example is like when Anthony Richardson got hurt last year. The Colts went into Baltimore. But the Ravens had no idea how to game plan for a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, and all they have is film on Anthony Richardson. Well, somehow the Colts go into Baltimore and they pull off a huge upset. So I think when you look at that, if there's a position where Hendon Hooker needs to step in, I think he's fully capable to, 1, hit a slant route, 2, hit a hitch route. The thing that does concern me is like if he were to roll out on play action, but really when you're looking at the options, they're probably not going to try to do all that much with him. Just hand the ball off because you have the best backfield in the NFL. So Hendon Hooker, to Booner's point, he's not going to be seeing the field outside of injury for 2 or 3 years, but I think it's a smart thing to do. And I think if there was ever a time, especially in the future, where Hendon Hooker has to play for this team, they're going to be just fine because he's an incredible athlete, but he can dissect defenses and just win the game. Now that he's got game speed, he can really feel what this Ben Johnson offense, all these schemes, he can see why he does it the way he does. Nate Sudfeld, he's been in preseason games before, so especially during camp, that's why there's a difference. Now, to Booner's point, there was a lot of things to be concerned about, like Hendon Hooker was like throwing balls in the dirt during just like walkthroughs. Like it was like, what the hell are we doing here? But I just think that shows like he's overthinking. He was overthinking. Now he's able to play football again, and he's able to develop Hendon Hooker into the quarterback that he wants to be in the NFL.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's well said, both of you. Well said.
Yeah, and the thing too is like I was saying it on the stream. Like I would have loved to see Hendon play the first half instead of the second, because I would have loved to see him against the
starters.
Chief starters for 2 possessions. Like, I would have liked to see that instead of having to see him against the threes, essentially. I'm not taking any credit away from what he did. Like he did an incredible job. But again, like you have to put in perspective a little bit who he was going up against. And when you like look at that, you're like, all right, the main thing out of this, this guy Hendon Hooker went out there and got live reps versus another team. And like that's fine. Now, like if you threw him up against week 1 versus the Los Angeles Rams defense, then you're like, okay, that might be a different story, especially when it comes to regular season. You guys know the difference from preseason to regular season. It gets taken up 100 notches. So, like, is he ready for 100 notches up versus a first-team defense, a top 10 defense in the NFL? Probably not. Like now, like if we're being realistic, like now. but he can be. And now I think there's to your point, Jeff, like down the line, weeks down the line, maybe it's week 8, week 9, like this dude's got the reps now. Like he's been in this offense fully. It's just interesting to know. I wish I would have been able to see that. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's fair to bring up who he was playing against, but I also think it's fair to bring up that he played well against, for the most part. Yeah. I get a couple mistakes, but he played well against those guys, right? We punish him if he didn't play well against the threes. So since he did play well, it's like, okay, cool, check. Like we saw him, he looked like he belonged, check. You know, so and the thing I always bring up, and this is why I have confidence, and I never faulted you for being like, hey, we need another quarterback. I don't think you were wrong for that take. Like I understand that completely. And I guess the point I was making last time we talked about this is just, you got to think like with better defenses he'll be facing, he'll have his starters offensively. So I look at that as well. You have to factor that in, and it won't be a vanilla offense. It'll be Ben Johnson game planning for him specifically. I don't even want to make this like Hendon's, he's arrived, like watch out Jared Goff. Like when he signed that contract, it's done. You know, like we all agreed. I toned my voice down on Hendon Hooker and all that stuff. I toned it down. But what I will say is damn straight he got himself that quarterback 2 job, because you know, he's not going to be throwing to Isaiah Williams. He's going to be throwing to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, J-Mo, have Jameer and David as his running backs, have the offensive line, you know. So I'm curious to see how he develops. I hope this week, man, I would let that man play the entire game. Like, just let that man play.
Think so?
Well, besides if the starters play. I'm sure that maybe we'll see the starters. It's their last preseason game. Maybe we'll see them for maybe a quarter drive. I don't know. Maybe we won't see them at all. If we don't see them at all offensively, let Hendon play. Just let him play. Find out if the dude can play or not. In a bigger sample size, that would be my opinion on that. I don't think you really need to see more of Sudfeld unless they really think Sudfeld is still in the race. I don't know. But that's my take on it. I was positive to see him, what he did this week. I think it was positive, no doubt.
Sudfeld's out of the race. There's no race with Sudfeld.
Yeah.
There's not. Like literally, I will say the same thing I said last week when you guys all got mad at me, and I talked about it. I brought it up Saturday. It's just the only way Sudfeld gets a spot on this roster if this Jared Goff says, hey, like I just want him around. I want him around so he can help me out. Like that's it. Like I need a towel boy. Like I need a binder guy. I need a water boy. Like with all due respect, but like someone to help him out day-to-day operations. Like that's the only way Sudfeld comes close to like being the third emergency quarterback. That's
Can I ask you something, Boone? I don't know if you know, you'd probably be the person to ask this. Because I saw in the chat, they have an emergency quarterback, right? That doesn't count against the roster. Yeah. So third. That was my point last week when everyone started coming at me a little bit. Was there is a third emergency quarterback spot, and in my mind, like you probably will never get to. Like the only reason they made that rule, they made it. Do you guys remember the playoffs? I think it was 2 years ago. 49ers Eagles.
49ers. Yeah. Like, and they ran out of quarterbacks. They were like, we don't have we had 2 quarterbacks on the roster. We don't have a third. Like that is a scenario that probably will never happen. So like you'll never have to see Sudfeld take the field. It's just more so like to be able to have that third guy, and for him to just carry around his stuff and be like, hey, you're my assistant essentially. Like I have a guy that knows the offense, that's around me, and who's been with me for 3 years now, or 2 years. Yeah. That was it. And I told you guys, I don't know why you guys didn't hear what I said a week ago. I said there's
I heard you. I just think even if you look at the Browns, like they have 3 guys who have played before, like not Brock Purdy. If Nate Sudfeld goes out there, like you have no confidence. I'd rather have a guy that can be Gerald's towel boy, but still have ability to play on the field.
The third string quarterback probably will never go out there. And if he is about to go out there, if you're preparing for a week, they're going to trade for someone over Sudfeld.
That's my point. So it's just why put yourself in that situation when you can just do it now and have the player in the offense already. Like Nate Sudfeld is never a guy you want taking a snap on the field. My whole point, I understand.
You don't hear what I ever say with Sudfeld. No one understands what I say.
No, I guess I don't.
No,
Jeff doesn't. No one does.
No, it's not about that.
We do. It's just we don't think that, okay, because you can have an emergency quarterback on the sideline, it should automatically be Nate Sudfeld. We all agree Nate Sudfeld cannot play NFL football. So if you're going to be taking even an emergency spot, if you're that emergency quarterback, I would like to have confidence and at least see that you can play NFL football. So when I say I do not want Nate Sudfeld, it's not because they can't have an emergency quarterback. I prefer a different emergency quarterback. That's all it is.
Okay.
I heard your point.
Yeah, and we'll see. I Hendon Hooker quarterback too, but I don't know. Maybe they just like Sudfeld and he's a good guy, and you know,
I don't think it's not that he's a good guy. Like, quit making up excuses. The The kid sucks. He's not a good football player. Like, quit disagree with me when I agree with you guys. Like, the guy sucks. The only reason he's on the roster is because Jared Goff knows the kid, and Jared Goff's comfortable with him, and the guy knows the offense, so he can work and help Jared Goff throughout the year. Like, literally, that is it. Like, this kid will never touch the field in a regular season game. Not once, even if he's the third quarter emergency quarterback. Like, it's just a guy that is brains. He's an extra quarterbacks coach on the field that you just have in your room. That is literally it. That he is literally the what was it, David Blau of the last 2 seasons. That is him. It's that simple. Like, that's it.
Right.
There's no other excuse.
But we all agree he stinks. And
Yeah.
Lucas, your point was, even if there is a 1% chance that the stink could see the field, you're not happy with it. That's it.
Yes.
That just that little percent of potentially him playing. Whatever. But we'll see. Who was the emergency quarterback for the 49ers? Was that something Johnson?
Josh Johnson, but then he got hurt and they had to put in McCaffrey.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Well,
like they had Johnson as a quarterback, but he got absolutely destroyed. He got a concussion.
Hopefully the Lions never have to even deal with that. Hopefully Jared, usually he's healthy, and I don't think you'll ever see Hendon anyway. But a player that you might see, guys, might make the roster. Speaking of that roster work, Isaiah Williams. Isaiah Williams looked pretty good. Another game, we led the team in receiving yards. And this is a guy that Dan Campbell talked about. I want to actually play a clip that Dan answered a specific question about him, but he is someone that could make the roster easily, but it just depends what they're looking for. And we'll listen to Dan on this because I think Dan puts it very, very well and kind of what he's looking for. And I want to get your guys' opinion on what he meant and what you think will happen with Isaiah Williams. But here's Dan Campbell. This is credit to the Detroit Lions on Isaiah Williams.
Look, we always put stock into the guys that are making plays, and he does. He is making play. Now those are, that's in the slot. Which is where he really that's where he excels. That's where his game is really is suited for, and he's made the most of it, and that's what's hard a little bit is like, man, he is a football player. He is making plays, but we got Saint, we got Leaf, and so where does that fit, And some of it may need to be, well, can we put him outside? What can you do at Z? Is that a possibility? Can he survive out there? But I know this, every challenge he's had, he's stepped up and made plays, and he's another one of those guys like Strickland on the defensive side. You give him an opportunity and he finds a way to make a play. So he came up big again. Can't deny it.
Hey, Isaiah Williams coming up big, but he is a slot more so, and Dan said maybe he can play a little bit outside. You were talking about this earlier, Lucas, and I thought you had a great comparison with how they can make it work with who they have currently. Because I get what Dan was saying, but there is a way to make this whole thing work with Isaiah Williams. There is. Yeah,
I mean, to start off, Isaiah Williams is a lock to make this roster. I will be very disappointed, even if he's on the practice squad. Like, in my opinion, he has been – you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Jamison Williams, and you have Khalif Raymond. This offseason, Isaiah Williams has been that guy. I understand he's a slot, but okay, he's a slot. He's a little bit taller. I'd comp him to Tyler Boyd. But if you look at a team down in Miami, they have the Detroit Lions, who motion the most in the league, and the Miami Dolphins motion the second most in the league. Run first team. If you look at their wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, OBJ, and Cedric Wilson. Where's the X wide receiver in that? OBJ, slot guy. Tyreek Hill, they can put him at the X, but you use him to push the field vertically. Jamison Williams. And then you have Jalen Waddle, speedster, but another slot guy. So when you look at how Ben Johnson runs his offense, how Mike McDaniel runs his offense, all the Lions really need at that X spot is a guy that can block, run a slant, run a hitch. When your number is called, just make a play, because you talk about Miami, they have Odell Beckham. The Lions don't have an Odell Beckham, but the Lions have Sam Laporta. So when you look at that, the Lions offense, I honestly like it more outside of Tyreek Hill, and I'm really not that concerned about that X spot, because as far as Isaiah Williams, the Lions love killing teams over the middle of the field and play action. That's exactly what happens. If Khalif Raymond gets hurt, if Amon-Ra St. Brown gets hurt, I am fully confident, even if it's week 2 or 3 with Isaiah Williams being out there, because he's a guy, when you watch him in the preseason game, the only thing that he really needs to do is hang on to the ball better. He fumbled on the punt return, and then he got tackled late out of bounds. It wasn't a fumble, but the ball went loose on the sidelines. If Isaiah Williams can just correct that a little bit, he's a guy that can be playing in the NFL for a long time. Everything that he does is just polished. He's not a guy that is overly athletic. He's not overly strong. There's nothing that's really jumps off the screen, but he does everything right. And I think with the timing of this offense, Isaiah Williams, he could be a guy that goes and gets this offense 200 to 300 yards this season. I think that's exactly what you want from the 4 or 5 position. Because, I mean, they even talked about it. Like, you could run Amon-Ra St. Brown on the outside. He ran 43% of his routes on the outside last year. Jamison Williams on the outside. Then you have Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Jahmyr Gibbs. You can also move Amon-Ra St. Brown on the outside, Jamison Williams on the outside. And then now Jahmyr Gibbs is in the slot, which the Lions have talked about for a long time. That's they want to do with him. They want to make him an offensive weapon. So I think there's a lot of possibilities for Ben Johnson to approach this personnel, even if they don't have a true X. They just need a guy that can go out there and block.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in lockstep with Klotz. I put it out Saturday that what he did Saturday, like right after the game, it was just, this kid is like 80-something yards. You know, he had the return for the punt return to set him up to go get a field goal for Jake Bates to win the game. Like, this kid, like Klotz, remember the Maurice Alexander? You're like, this kid needs it's turned over to Isaiah Williams now. Like, Maurice Alexander has played himself out of a spot or fighting for a spot, and Isaiah Williams is a guy who's played himself into one. Dan said he came out last week, said, hey, someone needs to step up, a wide receiver. We need to, like, someone needs to show us something. And it feels like that was Isaiah Williams. Like, you're still going to, like, I think they're still evaluating. And I think come Saturday, there's going to be, you know, maybe someone else steps up, and now you're sitting there and like, you want it to be a hard decision for them. I think Isaiah Williams, like, I'm in the boat right now to where they keep 5 wide receivers, and I think Isaiah Williams is one of the 4 or 5. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then that's where I don't really care. Like, and I get Dan saying that, hey, he's a slot guy, and that's tough because you have Khalif and you have Gibbs, obviously, who's going to be in the slot at points, and St. Brown, who can be. So, like, you have those guys, but I think if they're looking for a true X or someone, bigger body, all right, that's going to be your 4th or 5th guy. Like, if DPJ, like, I don't know what DPJ is doing, but maybe they go out and find someone else to be able to do that. Or if Darius Fountain shows up on Saturday, like, I don't know. I still think there's like a battle going on. And I think what Isaiah Williams did yesterday put himself like a case, like, hey, like, I will produce if you guys need me. Like, that was shown. Like, hey, numbers called, I'll produce. And his number wasn't called really last week, and this week it was called, and the kid produced. So, like, I think you have to put him on the roster. You have to say, like, hey, this is going to be someone who's going to, like, give you something when his number's called. He might not be a starter or anything, but if someone goes down or you need just someone to fill in, Isaiah Williams will do it. And I wouldn't be shocked this week if Dan and them put him in a different position to, like, move him around to see what he can do.
Right.
You might see a little bit of a different Isaiah Williams on Saturday. So if you can do that, he will solidify a spot on this roster. I just think there's still a battle going on, like DPJ, Caden Davis, and Darius Fountain. Like, maybe I thought about this today. Like, maybe all 3 of those guys aren't it. Maybe, yeah, I know Caden Davis made
all just cut.
Well, like, the thing is, like, I know Caden Davis made a big time play, and he's been really good in camp. But, like, to the level of, like, hey, can you go out, get there and get someone that's better than Caden, Darius, and DPJ right now? You probably could. Like, there's probably guys out there who are. I've seen people all over Twitter the last 24 hours just spamming, Lions fans spamming different players that are available or for via trade or guys who are going to get cut. And it's just like, we've been going through this battle. Like, Isaiah Williams is literally the only wide receiver the last 2 weeks, even with Hendon Hooker or Nate Sudfeld, that has really been like, yep, that's the 2 that should be on the roster. And I, like, out of DPJ, Darius Fountain, and Caden Davis, at this point, 2 out of the 3 of those guys potentially could be cut off this team. And then, like, I don't know. It's such a weird. I think this wide receiver situation going on with the Lions, I know we have our top 3. I just think it's one of the more weird situations. And, like, I just cannot get a grasp on what's going on. Cannot.
It sounds like from Dan, they really want DPJ to work out. Like, they want this man to work because he does really fit what in Darius Fountain, another one, like, fit what they do need, which is like a true, outside, a true X. But to what Lukas just said, which he makes a great point, maybe they don't really need one. Also, if you have J-Mo and Amon-Ra who's capable, I guess you just look at it. You do want guys that are capable of playing outside, and maybe Isaiah Williams can do that. I know when we talk about slot receivers, and if you don't mind adding slot receivers, there's a guy out there named Hunter Renfrow that I would not mind. If you're talking about a guy playing in the slot, like, if we're just going to go with Amon-Ra outside more so than playing in the slot, that's a guy that has played a lot of football, produced, and knows how to get open consistently. But to go back to Isaiah, I like Isaiah's chances to make this roster. I mean, he's outplaying every other wide receiver in that mix right now in preseason. I know practice is practice, and you're seeing in training camp, Darius Fountain make a lot of plays, and DPJ has not been playing well. But it is going to be interesting. Like Isaiah Williams is someone that a guy that we talked about, another guy that we talked about last week. If he were to get cut like a Brandon Joseph, he would get signed immediately. Isaiah Williams is the next. Like he would be gone within a heartbeat. Someone would pick that man up. I mean, he got $250,000 guaranteed money as an.
It was like the biggest one of the offseason, I think.
Yeah, like the teams are. I'm sure there were teams that were interested in him, and he chose the Lions. So. It's going to be a tough decision, man. But if they want to go the route what Lukas said, like what the Miami Dolphins do, I wouldn't mind that at all. But if you're going to go that route, add Hunter Renfrow. Like if you're playing a guy in the slot, that dude wouldn't cost a lot of money, and he would love to come play with Jared Goff. This offense, one of the best route runners, and he's not signed. It doesn't really make any sense, honestly. I don't know what's wrong with him.
Bobby Trees too.
Bobby Trees, yeah. I just don't see a world where after like Isaiah, what did he had like 120, 130 all-purpose yards on Saturday. Like there's not a world, a guy that goes out there, UDFA, where you give that signing bonus to, and he finally shows that, hey, I can produce. There's not a world out there that he doesn't make this roster. Like I do not see it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I saw him, like in the first couple plays he made, I was like, this kid's like he's shown enough. Like he's good. And like that's like a developmental guy. If maybe you go get a Renfrow and you keep Isaiah Williams and you go, hey, we have Isaiah Williams on the back burner here, and this kid's going to be like, come whenever his opportunity shows up, this kid's going to be a dog. And then think about next year, like you're going to keep growing, like this kid's going to keep getting better and better and better. Brad just keeps finding a way to find guys like this. He feels like one of those guys.
I would be really surprised too, even with like the first month of the season, like if they don't bring somebody in just for competition reasons, like especially when injuries start occurring, like there's going to be guys, I know people are dropping in the chat. I don't know if this is going to be true, but like John Mechie, David Bell, guys like that, like especially guys that are like, you look at teams that just added wide receivers and they got kind of younger guys on rookie contracts that haven't produced. Like there's going to be those type of guys getting released, especially during the season. So I'm willing to bet if they don't make a move before that season starts, they will eventually.
Yeah, and like the Dan Campbell comments, that makes me feel like they're already looking, like they're out looking. Like him being like, yeah, well, he's a slot, and we're trying to look for this. We need to see if he can do that. Like for me, like you said, Jeff, like they want DPJ to work out. I can guarantee you Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have been on the phone already, like trying to figure out who's going to get cut and what players are going to be open and talking to agents and figuring out things. Like I just can't see a world to where you've gone through this position battle. I remember last year I said after Saturday, you're going to know whether you hit the red button or not when it comes to the wide receiver room as well. Just like the backup quarterback, like you're going to know. Now you know. Isaiah Williams, and then there's no one else at the moment where you're like, yep, he's a lock.
And I'm genuinely asking because again, I was at a wedding, was not able to watch the game, had to rewatch some of it on Sunday. What's going on with Darius Fountain? Like, give me like your perspective, Boone, on that. Like, I'm actually genuinely asking. Like, it feels like if you watch some of his plays back, like he's getting open a bit. Like he's open. I don't know, but like when the ball comes his way, he's made the plays. He's had 2 catches. I don't know how many targets did he have. I could check real quick. But he had 3 targets, caught 2. So
caught 2, yeah. So and the one target was the Hendon Hooker pass over his head, that was Hendon Hooker's miss was to Darius Fountain. So like when the ball came his way, he caught it. It's just he hasn't been getting the rock. They haven't really taken in many deep shots, and like especially with like Sudfeld, you're not really going to get those opportunities. I feel like it's worrying, but it's not. Like if Dan's seeing it in camp, then in training camp, just like how the starters aren't playing. But I personally would have liked to see a little bit more Darius Fountain, and we just have not seen much at all.
I think you just seen through both preseason games too, like the tight ends get their catches, the slot receiver gets their catches, and the running backs get their checkdowns. But those perimeter wide receivers, like DPJ 1 catch, Darius Fountain 2 catches, Caden Davis, he had the 1 long pass, he had 2 catches, and that catch was in the middle of the field, and it looked like somebody ran the wrong route. Like that route design just looked whack. So when you look at all that, I just think that the X wide receivers that the position is happening, like they're not really in a position to succeed when on the field. So that's why all the stuff in camp right now, like Booner just said, it matters because that's the only thing you can really judge right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know Vaki was up there. He had 60 yards receiving. He had 4 catches for 60 yards, 6 carries for 22, longest run of 6. But he's been impressing this preseason. That's your guy, Klotz. Let's hear Dan Campbell on Sione Vaki. This is credit to the Detroit Lions.
You're there because of the plays that he's making.
Well, I would say it's early right now to start really looking at, all right, here's what we're going to do for him. But I would say, man, the more you learn about a player and the faster you figure out what they can do, the better off it is for everybody. Because we already felt like this kid's going to have the ability to play special teams. So now it's like, well, can you use him on offense? Is there a place? So, yeah, I mean, he's a lot further along in that part of the game than he is just carrying the football. And a lot of that is because he really hasn't done it, taking the carries, the vision of the play, the cuts, the reads, all of that. But the pass game, I thought he stepped up. He's another guy that's in that boat. Man, the 2-minute drive at the end of the game, wow, that was huge. I mean, just and he was making play after play, and he's tired, and he keeps going. He keeps pushing himself through it. At one point, his whole face mask just gets ripped off, which I don't even know how that's possible. Like, what kind of equipment are we? I mean, we're in the NFL, but it's just laying on the ground. So. Anyway, he did. You felt growth today from him as well.
Hey, very well said, Dan Campbell. Press conference is always a must-see. But Sione Vaki, he's got some juice. Hey, on offense, we know that. No doubt.
I mean, RB3, I think it's only a matter of time. Craig Reynolds, and it's no disrespect, he's been their RB3 here for the last 2 to 3 seasons, and I think that's when his number has been called on, that's all you can ask for. But there's going to be a time when Craig Reynolds is not the RB3 of this team, and you're looking at the guy who's going to be the RB3 that could easily be at the start of the season, but Sione Vaki by the end of the season definitely will. I mean, this is a guy that's definitely going to be on this offense at some points throughout the season, whether it's in the slot, whether it's at running back. He's going to be playing some snaps. I'm sure nothing significant. But I mean, as a 4th-round pick who Brad probably took a little bit of heat for because you're looking at this guy who was drafted as a safety. That's where he played best at in college. But now, okay, you're converting him to a running back where that was really his first time ever playing because even in high school, he's a wideout. But the dude is just a football player. I mean, when you look at him in special teams, he's going to be a guy that 2 to 3 times throughout the regular season for the Lions fans will be like, Sione Vaki just killed a dude on kickoff. Vaki just took a 60-yard kick return to the crib. Like, there's going to be multiple ways that he makes an impact for this team. It's not going to be, like I said, significant on offense, but Detroit Lions fans are going to be very familiar with Sione Vaki, and I think in the 4th round, come 2 to 3 seasons, they're just going to have another cheap weapon on this team financially that they can just use.
Juicy J? Vaki, RB3?
Hey, I think so. I don't give a damn. That dude is better than Craig Reynolds. I'm sorry. And I got a lot of love for Craig. But this dude had 14 touches for 101 yards this preseason so far. 14 touches, 10 total carries, and now, 4 catches. So, yeah. And it's about split down the middle, like half receiving, half rushing. Like, he's so dynamic. Mm-hmm. I think Vaki, and I know you've been talking a lot about it, Klotz, and now you're starting to see it. He might be more of a weapon in the pass game than I even thought. Yeah. Like, that dude, that man, I mean, we talk about, we talk about Gibbs and how many, his uptick in catches are definitely going to go up this year. But man, like, knock on wood, like you did earlier, if there's ever a situation where Gibbs goes down and you want that slot receiver you want that production coming from the backfield, I would love Vaki. I have no problem with that. Dude makes plays. He makes guys miss. He's dangerous in the open field. And I get why, we always bring up it's the preseason. Who is he facing? Like, he's making these guys miss that are second, third stringers. He's going to make guys miss. He played at Utah, played against a pretty good not a very good defensive conference, but he's making guys miss even with the ball, man. I don't give a damn. Give this man the football. I like him a lot. He's RB3, no doubt.
Craig, with all due respect to Craig, all due respect. I would say, like, right now, like, if you threw them both out there for who, like, give the snap, who are you going to give the snaps to week 1? Like, or if one of those top 2 guys goes down for a week or 2, all right, who's the next? It should be Sione Vaki. Like, it should not be. All due respect to Craig. Like, I think Craig's great, and he's done a lot the last couple of years, and I think he still can. I just think what you saw out of Sione Vaki out of the backfield, like catching passes, being able to, he's shifty. Like, he'll turn a short play into a long, like he will eat you up. Pause. But you know what I mean? Like, this guy looks different. You could tell, like, he just looks better than Craig. Like, there are just guys who have it. Like, I wrote it down. Like, I just think he has a higher ceiling than Craig, and it's really obvious. Like, his ceiling is like RB2 in this league, or maybe if some people say, maybe even higher, maybe a potential one day in his career in RB1. Who knows? But like he's got that ceiling.
Austin Eckler, Boone.
Yeah, and he's got that ceiling, and you could tell like instantly, like if you put him in the right positions, he's going to give you something. To where like Craig, like you know what you're getting out of Craig, which is a great RB3. And if you need him to stop into the RB2 spot, we saw it last year in Tampa, like into different spots, he can do it. It's just more so it's like, hey, maybe that's what he is. Like he's never going to be able to kind of take that next step. Vaki will be. Like Vaki's going to be able to take that next step if you ever need it to be like an elite playmaker, it feels like. So I'm all in with Vaki. Week 1, start him. Or not start him, RB3 him.
I lock him up in the RB3 spot. But I think even like Booner, you talked about it, like the Lions, they could easily keep one less receiver than anticipated. So Craig could still be on this team, which I honestly prefer because Craig is a perfect replacement to David Montgomery and Vaki's a perfect replacement for Jahmyr Gibbs. But the thing that Vaki does that David Montgomery does too is he's extremely physical, especially like I guarantee Scotty Montgomery. If you watch Vaki in pass pro, like when he's pass blocking, he lights people up. And it comes from, okay, I'm a safety. I just played safety. I was an All-American safety as a freshman. And he wasn't a true freshman, but as a freshman year at Utah. And Utah, if you ever watch this Utah defenses, they just have psychos running around there. Like Utah's defense is extremely physical. And even like when he was there, he was one of the better players in that secondary, just on that defense in general. So when you look at that, Vaki, he's going to be physical. He knows what to expect from defensive backs. But even when he's running, he just understands what the defense is trying to do because he's been playing defense. So this is another player where you're going to watch just organically get better as the more he plays. So I'm really excited to watch this guy develop for the next couple of years.
Hey, it's not all about speed. The dude just has a good feel. Like and that's why I think your Austin Eckler comp is like it's like making more sense as the days go on because Austin was never the fastest, but he can catch the football. He's got great vision. And I think that's what Vaki is at this point. Like great vision, can get good hands,
good balance.
He could stay upright. I mean, he's I like what we're seeing out of Vaki, man. I could see why Brad and them were in love with the guy. So a guy who's playing defense, touch the ball sometimes. Now he should be a full-time running back. I don't get
the biggest thing, the craziest thing too. They mentioned it in the pre-draft or after the draft. When Brad was asked about him right after they drafted him, and he was like, this kid's never just focused on one position. And he's so good. Like, he's so athletic. He's so good at what he does. But he's never, in his whole career, he's never just been like, hey, let me just go to camp as a running back. Let me just focus on like this kid went to the combine and worked out in multiple positions. How many people do that? Not like he was like one of the only ones to do that in a long time. And he did it. So like now you get him in just the running backs room. Just focus on this and be great at this. Let's use your talent. Let's use your athleticism in this one position. Don't even think about safety or anything. Like you don't even need to worry about that. You just know that with that comes he's going to be really good on special teams because he can tackle. And you know he already has worked on that for his whole college career. So like you know what you're getting. Now it's just focus on just sit there and just focus on being a running back. And like his ceiling is just going to get it's so high, I feel like. He's just going to get better and better. Like this is literally the second preseason game of his career. He's been in camp for a couple of weeks, and he's already looking like he is now. He's just going to only get better.
Hey, fellas, I know Vaki we kind of knew. Well, Lukas definitely knew, but we've now starting to see it. We're like, this guy can play. All right, another guy that I've been just waiting to just see a pulse, just any little bit of pulse, has been Josh Paschal. I just need to see some life. That's it.
Reassurance. You needed some reassurance.
It's like it was beep, beep. And I just needed to see something. It started flatlining. Oh we got Josh Paschal back, ladies and gentlemen. Josh had a strip sack. Big fella was making plays. All right. And Josh Paschal, and we talked about how he was inactive the first preseason game. And we were like, hey, maybe the coaches feel like he's already established himself as someone that they trust. You know, we had this discussion too on the show. Not everything you read, you live by, like it's the Bible or whatever phrase you want to use. Sometimes guys that you don't hear a ton about, maybe they're just solid, maybe not doing a lot to impress, but nothing that's super negative. We kind of thought Josh Paschal fell in that category. Like he's just kind of someone that hey, Josh is Josh. He's solid. Maybe he's not turning into the second round pick we thought he was. That's what I assumed. And I thought this weekend was huge for Josh Paschal, someone that, again, in a deep defensive line room needs to continue to show why he was drafted in the second round, why he can be a piece of this defensive line. And fellas, you got a little life with that strip sack, and I'm excited because I do think, and especially with his versatility, he's someone that brings a lot of value for Aaron Glenn. However, whatever he wants to do, whatever fronts he wants to use, a guy like Pascal who could play inside, can play outside. I think it was great. He's someone that, again, we talk about DPJ, the coaching staff wanting to work out. I think there is AG. He wants Josh Pascal to work out so bad. Because if he turns into a pretty good player, he's someone that you can really use and can help your defense. So I'm excited for him. Hopefully he can build on this, fellas. Just keep building him.
I mean, I hope so. This defensive line, that was something I did take away from the game a little bit, was like the defensive line they showed out. They were getting a ton of pressure.
Hey, Betts?
That's like all these guys. Should we bring it up now, or I was going to go Josh Pascal? But
no, I don't want to interrupt you. Sorry, you do your thing.
No, I'm at we could talk Josh Pascal, but hey,
do Pascal, and then we'll do
because
Betts next.
I want Betts and Uku to get there. We'll talk about that later, because if the people in here who were watching the stream, I sat there by myself while all of my narratives were working with Uku and Betts, and I was like, I just want to tell the boys, like, look at this, boys, come on. No, but Josh Pascal, I mean, like, you've just been waiting. I mean, I kind of called him out last week about it too. It's just like, where is he? No one's heard his name in camp. And we texted the doc too, and I forgot to share it with the show, but he was like, hey, when he's in, he makes an impact, but he's just he's battling injuries. Like, he's at practice and camp, he's just on the side battling injuries all the time. And like, I think Dan and AG, they like wanted to see something from this kid. Like, that's the reason he played, was because they're like, dude, you have to show us something. And the fact that down the stretch, like, I know the fumble happened after, but the Lions needed to stop down the stretch, and the guy to do it was Josh Pascal, to go get a strip sack and then get the ball back to essentially almost win the game before the fumble. Like, he like that was a big time play. I don't care if it was against second team, third team. I really don't care. It was just more so like, just he showed a little bit of life. Now it's like, all right, let's see it this week again. I think Josh Pascal needs to play this Saturday again, and then let's see it kind of in that rotation. I don't think Josh Pascal is one of those guys where it's just like he's automatically like, yeah, he's shown you a lot of spurts, even in the regular season last year. He has shown you things. It's just like about like, let's just get consistent here, bud. Come on. Like,
it's coming,
like,
Boone. It's
you look so good at sometimes. Like, give it to me the whole time.
That's
pause that one too. Pause that one too, Boone.
Yep. I feel that.
No, but I mean, guys, I know neither of you were really like worried about Josh Pascal, but he was like a guy that I think a lot of Lions fans, including myself, was like, what the hell's going on? But I never was really worried, just because even to the last game, I'd bring it up all the time, but it's a valid point to bring up. In the NFC Championship game, Deebo Samuel gets an end around. Josh Pascal is tackling behind the line for 8-9-yard loss. 49ers punt the next play. So when you look at that, Josh Pascal, he's shown spurts of the regular season, but another guy that's just dealt with injuries. So with him, I think, one, they're confident what he can do, but they also want to see what he can do, because he's a guy that could be the best piece on your rotational unit, could be the worst piece on your rotational unit, or a potential starter if he can reach his ceiling. So I think when they put him out there like that, the emergence of Levi Onwuzurike, who I bet is above him right now, they talk about him being a guy that can be a tweener. Josh Pascal, he's definitely fighting for like, okay, we love you right now, but are we going to have to find a potential replacement for you next offseason, the next draft, whatever it is? But he showed some life. That's all you need to ask for him. He's going to be a good rotational piece for this Lions team this year. I think he's a guy that gives you 3, maybe 4 sacks. He's not going to be dominant, but when Josh Pascal's numbers called on, when they need to line up on that defensive front, he's a guy that I have full confidence in just holding his own. I think he can do that. I think there'd be very rare plays where Josh Pascal gets bullied and gives up a big play in the run game. I don't think that. He's a guy that can
take it.
Quarterbacks like Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, guys in the NFC, Jordan Love in the division, J.J. McCarthy, I know is hurt, but in the future, even Sam Darnold has some mobility, Caleb Williams. Josh Pascal is a guy that can help contain the quarterback. So I like what he can do for this team, and I don't think anybody should be worried about him.
I'll say this.
I think maybe be worried about, like, he was a second-round pick and they saw him as a starter. I don't see him really doing that ever in his career, except that, okay, what can he be? He can be a very good rotational piece for this team.
3-4 sack. I don't know.
Generous. Could be generous.
I think it's like when you guys got mad that I said Levi 4 sacks. You guys were like, what? 4 sacks?
No, you said more than 4 sacks. You said more. You said
I locked it in at 4. I said 4 to 6, and then I said I'm locking it in at 4.
It was me, like, with Pitts. I'll admit I can't say anything. I said 8 to 9.
Maybe a little generous, 2 to 3.
But I locked it in at 4. Like
he's potential to do that.
He's had 1 sack and 2 sacks like each season that he's played, and like like there's going to be injuries for Josh Pascal. Like, he's still battling them in training camp. The difference with him and Levi is Levi's gotten past his injuries and he's turned into what you were expecting him to be. Josh Pascal, like, I'm not going to sit here, Klotz, like, if I was to sit here and be like, let's put some money on him to get 3 to 4 sacks, dude, I would take the under so fast because like
That's
this
fair.
guy, like, he doesn't stay healthy, and he, like, compared to Levi's proven it now that he can stay healthy for a camp,
Well,
and he's
okay,
putting
if
it out
you're going
there.
to say Levi's proven it, then you can't say that Josh Pascal is not. This offseason, yes, but at the same time, let's see what these players have done as a whole.
So
Josh
one
Pascal,
player
you're
has
pointing-
played, one player had to play in the preseason, the other didn't. One player, that means Levi, I'm not saying it proven it to the fans. I don't really care about all of us, but I'm saying to Dan Campbell and AG, like, he has gone out there and he showed them, hey, I'm no longer injured and I can play football now at the level that you guys drafted me to play. Josh Pascal is far from that. That's the reason he had to play on Saturday, and I'm almost want to say he's going to play this Saturday again. Like, that's just for me, and it's just
I'm higher on Levi heading into the season, but to say that Josh Pascal is not a guy that, like, when you look, you talk about his glimpses. Like, I don't think, like, we're talking about 3 to 4 sacks here. Like, to say that he can go get 3 to 4 sacks, he has all that potential in his toolbox. Absolutely. Maybe I was being a little generous, but I think when you look at him, he's much more of a pass rusher than Levi Onwuzurike is, and he's going to be played more out in the edge situations. I think he's a guy that can definitely be rotated as a 5 tech. So that's why when you look at it, maybe it's a little high, but he's definitely a guy that has the potential on this rotation. If he has a good season to get 3 or 4 sacks. I don't deny that. Could he be taken the under? Most likely, but I just think for upside with Josh Pascal is there without a doubt. Like, I think people are just acting like this dude's a bum now, and not you guys, but people are just like, okay, completely.
Not a bum, but like, where we at 3 to 4 sacks. Like, this guy has never had more than 2 sacks in 2 seasons so far. Like,
Maybe like 1 more, 2 more.
Yeah,
right?
it's tough.
We're debating 2 to 3. I mean, at the end of the day, if those guys can each give you a couple sacks, you're happy. I mean, I really don't know
For sure.
I know a player that no. What were you gonna say?
I was saying I'm just not confident in him yet. Like, it's just one of those things. From what we've heard, like, he just constantly hurt, and like from the doc saying, like, when he plays, he's good, but this guy's just always hurt. Like, that's
I know. I know a player that might not even be here. But on Saturday, he made a case.
I don't know.
He made a little case.
Made a fucking nice play.
He made a nice play. That's Matty Betts. You know, and Doc put out, I was reading Doc's, it's on si.com/NFL/Lions, but he did his highest and lowest graded players on PFF. Matthew Betts did play well. Like, he had the sack, but he was one of the lowest graded Lions at like 39. But the dude, that play, Booner, I will say, and I'm going to say this, you gave me a bone, I'm going to give you a bone. All right. Matty Betts, that play to get after the quarterback, that pass rush, that right there is why you brought him in. Like, that play specifically. I understand that. And I know there's been people that are looking at him now like, hey, this is a guy that you want to keep around. I don't know how much it's swung for me, but I'm definitely a little more like, okay, like, you know what? I can see why Booner and others are more confident of him making the team because of a play like that. I think he's already behind, given, like, we just talked about Josh and Ukwu, another guy that are going to be battling. I still don't think he'll make the official roster, but I'm not hating Boone. He had a nice play on Saturday.
I think that's the toughest thing for him is that they put him at the Sam's linebacker spot a couple weeks ago, and obviously that was never meant to be. And then they were like, we're putting him back at edge because he was playing so well through OTAs and to start camp at the edge position. And then they said, all right, let's get you in Sam. Let's get you moving around a little bit. And they did that, and then he struggles, and now he's, like you said, he's a little behind. So it's harder for him to make the roster now. But I think he showed the flash to where, like, he's going to be on the practice squad no matter what. And at some point, maybe through the season, he gets an opportunity to play in a game and go out there and show what he could do. Like, if there's an injury or something. But that's exactly, guys, like the bets, the move he made, what he did, it felt like throughout the game too, you did see times of him getting pressure, him and Ukwu. And it does feel like if he would have had an extra week, if he did this week 1 and then now he has these next 2 weeks, that there's a chance that he has, he's fighting for a spot. I just think it's too late for him. I would have loved, when I was watching it on Saturday, I kept telling the people, I was like, imagine if the narratives turn around and Matthew Betts, we had the conversation last week. That was almost a lock. We were going to go get pizza this weekend. And then it was just, he goes out there and does what he did. And he ends up turning around and somehow makes the roster. Like, that would have been unbelievable. He shows we know what he can do. Like, we know what he's about. And that was it.
Early pizza. Early pizza, that's crazy work though. Hey, getting pizza before he's even cut.
You were
That
about
is-
to do it. Like I was gonna
that-
literally this last week and be like, dude, let's just get this pizza now. And then he
That's
ends up having
hilarious.
that game. And then
Yeah.
it's just like
I mean,
maybe
that's
we
what
should
we were.
wait. And it was the same
Yeah,
thing.
I mean-
Like the same thing. Go ahead, Klotzy, my bad.
I was just say it was a flash, and like we said it before the show, every squirrel will find its nut. But it was a very nice play, and I think where you look at Matty Betts, it is too late because
Josh
even like a
McCown.
guy like Mitchell Agude and like people like that, like they've been playing consistently, and I don't think he's going to be much of an impact against the run. But if you want to put him on the practice squad, I could see it. I'm not going to be mad at it. My question is just like how much are you going to progress a 29-year-old pass rusher? Again, I'm not opposed to it if you think he can be something immediately, but I just think he's one of those guys where good camp body. Could possibly be getting looked at by other teams, but I just think it's too little too late for Matthew Betts in Detroit. I just do.
He's fighting a battle. He's fighting
Yeah,
a battle.
I'm happy. Like,
Who's in that
I
battle?
am happy that he did. He went out there and made a play. I'm happy that he did.
Yeah, me too. I think that was he needed that. That goes back to the pulse thing. Like it was flatlining, and then it boop, boop.
Yeah, you got
something
something
out of Matty Betts.
Maybe he goes out there this week too on Saturday and he goes and gets 2 sacks. Like he set himself up.
Like
This
Julian
is essentially what he
Okwara did against the Giants.
Yes. So essentially what he did is he gave himself life to make the roster. Like he just gave himself, like if he didn't get that sack on Saturday, it was, hey dude, your time's going to be done. Like you're not making the roster. Like he gave himself another week to be like, I'm going to go out and practice this week. I'm going to go dominate at the edge position. And then Saturday, if I can go up against the Steelers and I can go get Justin Fields once and Russell Wilson once, I might have a chance on Tuesday to be called up. I might have a chance. So
He's going to hawk down Justin Fields. Did you see the Texans running back that got hawked down by like that Giants defensive tackle?
Yeah.
Either way, that's going to be Matthew Betts with Justin Fields. You watch, Boone. He hears you. He hears the path.
I will say there's a better path. I think of Ukwu making the team. Isaac Ukwu.
Yeah.
It is.
I would agree with that.
He's good.
I can agree with that. Even though I think they'll both miss the final roster just because of how much they have. I do agree with you. If you had to pick one, Boone, I'm with you 100%. I think he has a better chance.
I think the thing with Isaac Ukwu is like he got hurt in the game, and he came back out there and played. Like a guy that does that. That's a Dan Campbell guy. Where Dan sees you go down, you have to get off the field. He's like, I'm walking off the field on my own. Mm-hmm. And then 2 possessions later, he's back on the field, and then he ends up getting a sack later in the game or whenever it was. Like this kid is I think Isaac Ukwu has put himself in like the prime spot to steal a roster spot. Honestly, yeah, I'm being dead serious. I think he's going to end up making the roster, and that pizza bet voids.
Well, we agreed not the void. Are we doing the void?
We each buy a pizza. We each buy a pizza, and I have to buy you a drink.
I'll take
Jeff
it.
wanted a Slurpee.
That was it. I'll get you a Slurpee. We can do that.
I'll take that. That's
I just think like if you watched Isaac Ukwu, and he did have a lower PFF grade as well, but it was just, and I think I'm not the only one that thought this.
Yeah,
just watching him though.
Dude, not to cut you off, Booner, but it's like that's PFF for you, dude. Like one of the only guys to get a sack in the game, and he's got one of the like third lowest PFF.
There is.
Like, give me a fucking break.
There is the PFF though, like on the offensive side, it was pretty spot on. So like there is give and take. Again, there's give and take, Klotzy. Don't get.
It's like if you were to score a touchdown. It's like if you were to guy were to score a game-winning touchdown, and you see there's the second lowest PFF scores. Like who gives a fuck? He made a play. There's other guys who have higher PFF scores, but that made 0 plays. 0. That's a stat.
Yeah,
0.
I always say PFF. I like it when it fits my narrative. I don't like if I use it for my argument, I love it. But then there's other times where I'm like, how? Like what? I don't know. But yeah, like Isaiah Williams was one of the highest graded players. So to Boone's point, like
and one of the lowest ones was Nate Sudfeld.
See, it fits my narrative, Klotz, so I'll bring that up.
That's what. But all right, back to the Isaac Ukwu thing. I've lost.
Just you're saying he's special, and you think he has a legit shot to make the roster, and I really don't disagree with you. I think it's going to come down to James Houston and him, and the fact that he went out and got another sack. I think he made his case a little bit closer. Just the thing with Isaac Ukwu and James Houston, that's a make or break for me. And I know that some people might roll their eyes, but you've seen it with James Houston, even on special teams. Like you've seen it with James Houston. So I think Isaac Ukwu, you brought up Matty Betts on the practice squad. I think that's a perfect spot for Isaac Ukwu. I think if you put him there, if James Houston starts to struggle in the regular season, you're like, this is not working. Trade him, release him. All right, activate Isaac Ukwu, and you got your replacement right there. So I think James Houston, I know he didn't play in Kansas City. I know he looked a little bit rough, but I'm not going to be the guy to give up hope on James Houston just because you saw what he could do at the edge position. They moved him back there. Let's see what he can actually do there, because at the end of the day, he's not going to be that bookend in the opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. You're going to have Marcus Davenport, who's not a bookend, but at this point, he looks like he's going to be better than James Houston. Let James Houston develop, and if he doesn't work out, you still have Isaac Ukwu on the team.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a sack, Josh had a sack, and Matty Betts had a sack. Those are the 3 sacks on the day.
I will be the one to say it. I'll be the one to be honest about it. Like James Houston, there's a question mark with him. He's hurt again, not playing.
What do you know why what was the injury? Like what?
No clue. No one's really said
bone bruise.
Maybe the bone bruise. I don't. It's just like there is a point in the NFL to where it's like, hey, like Klotz, I get what you're saying. He has showed us. That was again though. It feels like it was yesterday. That was 2 years ago. Like that's 2 seasons now removed from that. And if you look at the games he played last year, and I know he was the Sam, but he didn't do much. And it's just like, I don't think it's crazy to like, yeah, if you want to be like, hey, we just want to see what he can do. All right, that's fine. But I think like for the people out there who are like, what's going on with James Houston? Like, I'm fine to move on from him. I'm not saying I'm like, hey, let's move on from James Houston, but there are guys right now who are playing in the preseason who are outplaying him because they're healthy. And if a guy shows like an Isaac Ukwu, he can do what James Houston can do and go out there and get pressure at a high level. Like James Houston isn't out there to protect his job. Like it's the same thing with DPJ when DPJ failed his conditioning test and missed a day or two. And then Darius Fountain goes out there, takes his job, and then now he's behind the whole time. It's like, hey, if a guy's going to go out there and outcompete you, Dan Campbell's not the guy to be like, hey, like we have a guy here who just hasn't practiced and who, you know, has been hurt for a year and he hasn't given us anything for 2 years, but we just like him because he's in the building. He's been in the building. Like, no, Dan's going to be like, hey, this guy's working his you-know-what off, and he's out there producing. Like, that's where I think, like, this Saturday, like, James Houston better play Saturday, and when he plays, he better go out there and produce. That's how I feel. Because, like, I know he was and he's coming off a major injury. That's it. So, I'm a James Houston guy. Like, if he's going, I'm happy. Like, I want this kid to work out. Like, I want him to get back to his rookie year because he was so good and he was so impactful on this defense. But it's just, we have not, like, before the injury, didn't have any sacks. After the injury, didn't show you much.
Week of the season.
Okay, but still, like, there was nothing to where you're like, oh yeah, James Houston out there dominating again. Like, no, he was struggling, and then he gets hurt and comes back in the playoffs, and he wasn't that great in those games either. And then, like, in training camp, what have you really seen out of like Klotz? Like, I remember the first preseason game, you're like, well, he had the big hit on the sideline to hit the quarterback, but then it was like he had one of the lowest PFF grades. He was literally the lowest graded PFF player. I mean, on the whole.
But we just brought this sort of Isaac Ukwu. You did.
Man.
I know, but that's why if we bring that up, Isaac Ukwu yesterday had one of the lowest ones. That's why I'm saying, like.
But all right, let me finish. But on top of that, you go back and watch the game, and he missed. There was literally a stretch where he missed 3 straight tackles on 3 straight plays, and it was just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, the PFF was right then. Like, I went back and watched the game. I saw he's the lowest graded. All right, what did he do? And I go back and watch the game, and he literally is just missing tackles, and he's not getting pressure that you thought he would be getting when he is going to get into the quarterback. And it was just, and you're playing in the preseason for second and twos and threes.
Why? Like, my question is, why do we say all these things negatively about James Houston, but then when it comes to other players, they're excuses? Matty Betts moved to Sam position. Well, he's going to be fine now. James Houston, when you talk about missing tackles, when you're at the Sam spot compared to when you're natural defensive
you just put words in my mouth. Never said Matthew Betts was going to make the team. I literally said he's behind.
I'm saying as an example where it's like, okay, we need to give these guys a break. But with James Houston, it's like, all right, it's time to move on. James Houston, when last year before he got hurt, everybody in Detroit, most people in Detroit thought this guy was going to be a huge bright spot. An injury happens. And now we're talking about this guy possibly being cut. Like, he's going back to the position where he excelled at. So for him to get cut before you even see that, it just doesn't make sense to me. It makes no sense. When you're talking about a guy who you see nothing from.
I never said he was going to get cut, and I never said we're moving. I do not want to move on from James Houston.
This whole discussion is
James Houston needs, like, you need to see something. Like, keep your eye on James Houston. This
or
isn't
what,
me being
though?
like,
that's what I'm saying. If he doesn't do it, like, okay, if James Houston doesn't go out there and get a sack, what happens? What happens?
If he goes out there and did what he did last week, I'm going to have questions and say, like, on Tuesday, what's going to happen? Are they going to trade him? Like, what? Like, legit?
Is he going to?
If he does what he did, did you go watch like the game? Like, he missed multiple.
Absolutely. I just said because there's a huge difference whether people want to realize it, acknowledge it or not. You saw it exactly with Matthew Betts. When you're the Sam position, it is a completely different position than the defensive end position. James Houston doesn't. So when you're asking why, because we see it with Hendon Hooker and you see it in the games. Like there's just players that when they're certain positions, they're overthinking. And James Houston, you can see. Do we all deny that James Houston has talent? He has talent.
He does.
We've seen James Houston produce in the league. You switch his positions. What's changing? His thinking. That's all that's changing. His talent doesn't change. Nothing changes besides the position he's playing. So when we talk about missed tackles, it's because he's worrying about more things than just being a defensive end, which is what he does.
So what's the point at the end of the day? What's the point of having any competition if you know, hey, James Houston's his lock anyway? So Agude, Betts, Ukwu, like those guys should just never don't go out there and compete because guess what? No matter what, Dan's going to tell them, no matter what, next Tuesday, you're going to be on the practice squad or you're going to have to go to a different team because James Houston is a lock on this team.
Because James Houston, the guy that has proven it in the league,
he had 8 sacks. Because 2 years ago, he had 8 sacks. So that's it. I don't think it's a crazy conversation.
2 seasons ago, how much did those guys have?
Those Ukwu was in college, and
my point. So these guys do not have the experience that James Houston does.
You're right.
You're
right, dude. If I had 8 sacks,
you literally asked the question. Why are you? Okay.
Right? That's what this is.
No, you're acting like because this guy has been hurt after he had a nice season, that season doesn't matter anymore to the coaches.
I never said that. I said he has all the
what
talent.
You're acting.
He needs to. We need to make sure coming off a major injury, he broke his ankle. A guy that needs the bend when he's playing on the edge. A major injury when he came back in the playoffs. We didn't see it out of him when he was playing the edge. And then yes, he is moving positions again. And I was the one, we can go clip it a week ago that said, hey, I think this is going to be really good for James Houston because he doesn't need to think. I literally said he doesn't need to think as much and he's back to just get to the quarterback. But he's not playing this week. I still said coming off the injury, there are guys competing for this spot right now. Agude, Ukwu, these guys are fighting for this spot. James Houston isn't just hey, this is a starter. This guy, he's raw. He needs to come back off the injury and he needs to go out there and show you what he can do. When we were there, was he running with the ones? We saw him with the twos at times. This guy, it's not like he's just an automatic, hey, this guy's going to be in the rotation. I just think, hey, you need to see him Saturday and let him go out there. Let him go out there and compete and see what he can do. Because he did struggle last week. I think everyone knows he struggled last week.
I mean, I see the chat. I had pulled it. I said, is James Houston on cut watch, according to fans? And it's about 60-40 exactly right now in favor of yes. So the fans are a little more in favor of he's on cut watch.
And I just don't think he's going to get
cut.
Or
trade watch or whatever. I mean, whatever you want to
watch.
Yeah.
It's not that I think he's going to get cut. It's that, hey, this is just something to keep an eye on. That the dude coming off an injury, that's tough. That's tough.
1 to 10, your concern level, each of you. 1 to 10, 10 being very concerned, 1 being I'm
what are we gauging it off of? For him to be a starter, rotational piece, what is it?
Be what you expected, which I'm going to be honest, I know I've said this. I'll just say what I've said. I said James could get 6 to 8 sacks, maybe even higher end, 8 sacks this year.
You still think that?
That's what I've said, but I'm sorry, think of your expectations for him. Where are you at with that? If you whatever you thought he would do this season, where are you at? Nothing's changed for you? Or maybe a little bit.
I don't think he's going to get 8 sacks, but I think he's definitely a guy that can give you 4 to 5.
So
on third down rotational piece, yes, I still believe he's that guy.
Okay. Is that what you've always, I don't remember what you said before. Is that what you've always
all of us said? I think all of us might have said 7 to 9 sacks or 6 to 8 sacks at one. When we, I think we. Did
I've said 6 to 8. I was pretty high on. I'm thinking about what he.
Yeah, I think we did a segment on it a couple months back, and I think we all were pretty lockstep with that.
What'd you say, Klotz? What'd you say? What'd you think at the time?
I can't remember. Probably 6 to 8, somewhere around there. I think I had him and Marcus Davenport both getting 6, the same amount of sacks.
So you've moved down a little bit.
I'd probably move James Houston down a little bit, but it's not much. I still think he's maybe not the 9, he's not going to be the 9 sack player that he is, but James Houston is still the talented football player that he is. Okay. I don't think talent, nothing like that has changed. It's just been a year of you haven't been able to see him out there, and you've seen other people make plays, but at the end of the day, it's not like James Houston cannot make plays.
If he could give the Lions 4 to 6, I know it's not what he was his rookie year. I think he's still more capable, probably. I think it says more about the Lions roster on the defensive line, their depth at edge, than anything. Like, unless they go trade for a guy that's pretty well established, then I'd be more open to moving him. But even though I'm a little concerned,
I would say my concerns level is like a 6-7. And I think that's just
Okay.
going into this week. You're just
He's
sitting
still
there and
better
you're like, let's keep an eye on James Houston. It was something like the Josh Pascal thing. Well, I don't think Josh Pascal was on watch, but hey, we haven't heard anything out of him and we need to hear something and we need to see what he can do again. Like we need something.
Okay.
And I think that's all it is with James, because he went out there on Thursday last week and he went to go show you something and it looked the opposite of what you have seen from him. Like, we know he has the talent to get to the quarterback. What you saw last week was like, yeah, now I see why they're moving him off the Sam spot. But that just was not like, it wasn't good. It was not fun to watch. It was not good. So
Hey,
it's like, all right,
no, sorry. Finish. I thought you were.
I was just saying, like, I think it's a good thing to say, like, hey, Saturday he needs to play and figure out this injury and go out there and play and just redeem himself from that. Because there are guys that are competing for spots right now. Like, Agude has played very, very well. Like, Uku has 2 sacks in 2 games. Like, he's been playing extremely well.
D-Ray says, you think we bring in an X wide receiver? I saw someone mention the name Julio Jones today.
I saw that as well. Someone wrote about it.
Bring it on. Hey, one of my favorite receivers to watch ever, actually. I love watching prime Julio Jones. But no, he's cooked.
As soon as I saw it,
maybe they do.
As soon as I saw it, just looking at his stats the last couple of years, this guy's just not done anything.
He's cooked. No, he's cooked. I love Julio, though. Absolutely love him. But he's cooked.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't even be like when the Lions brought in Anquan Bolden. It wouldn't even be that. Anquan made a couple key plays. Julio Jones, it'd probably be Marvin Jones 2.0 in Detroit.
Yeah, I don't know if they bring it in next. I would wait till when guys get cut. But maybe they will. We'll see. I think they will. Maybe guys that are getting cut around the league. That'll come in about a week. Yeah. I think
next Tuesday. Tuesday's the
8 days. Yeah, we'll find out. Okay, that's fair.
Tomorrow's a week, right there.
Do you guys see Stephon Gilmore sign with the Vikings? 1 year, $10 million deal to be a Viking.
Same deal they signed last year in Dallas.
Same deal signed last year in Dallas. He's in the NFC North. Not playing with his brother, but will be playing not against his brother, but against his brother's team if he makes the roster. Yeah. There's even on the practice squad, by that matter. What do you guys think? What this to me, it's Stephon Gilmore saying, you know what? I'll take your $10 million. Thank you. And I'll go play for Brian Flores. Easy. It's a robbery for a year. And then he'll go get paid somewhere else. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's a sneaky little piece for the Vikings. It's not a needle mover, but I think they need it. I mean, I think their secondary is okay. I like Cam Bynum, who they have back there. I like Josh Metellus, but they're a little thin at corner. So I think when you add him in there, it adds a little bit of veteran. I think that defense, I know people laugh at a lot, but it's going to be probably like a top half of the league defense. So they have an explosive offense. It just comes down to Sam Darnold. I think it's a team that they're not going to be winning 9-10 games, but I think it's a team that if you sleep on, they can definitely go in there and punch in your mouth, especially just for a quarter. If you sleep on them offensively, they can put up 21 right now on you. So I think Stephon Gilmore, solid piece. I think they'll contribute in Minnesota, but I don't think it's anything that we really got to panic about.
Yeah, Boone, I think it helps them. I'll give them one more win. I'll go from
one win because of Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, well, if I was saying the Vikings were to win like 6 games, I'll give them 7. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at with it, Boone.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't really have that. Like, the Vikings were last in the division I felt like anyway. So like, this doesn't really matter to me, to be honest. It's like, sweet, you guys got Stephon Gilmore. Congrats. You're still going to.
Did the Lions miss out on adding him? Or no, they're good.
No, I don't. At $10 million, I don't think it's like you're not sitting there. You're like, yeah, we should. I don't even think he probably spoke with the Lions. I think it came out like the teams he was speaking with. I think the Vikings, and there was like one other team or something. So I don't know. It's not really a needle mover for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the guys he's going to guard is the NFC North wide receivers. I think one of the best divisions in football when it comes to wide receiver talent. Dan Orlovsky, you know who he said his best wide receiver core in the NFC North was? Let's listen to this, and you guys can.
It's just a picture, Jeff. There's no video.
Well, at least look at this. Rather, sorry,
yeah.
Don't listen to this, but look at this. Green Bay Packers. Yeah, it's one of those like the videos with the picture. looks kind of cool.
It's
But
weird.
it's the Green Bay Packers. They are Dan's number one wide receiver core in the NFC North, followed by the Minnesota Vikings, followed by the Chicago Bears. And then here's the Detroit Lions at number 4. I'm going to be honest. He has an argument for this list. I would probably put the Bears first and the Packers second, or maybe third, but he's going to go off depth. That's what he's going to go off with the Packers. I get it. Depth and all the depth they have. You can't tell me that Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze, they're better. They just are.
I mean, I would say Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are than both those guys.
That's fine. I will take that.
I think by default, like Justin Jefferson just puts the Minnesota Vikings at 1, and Jordan Addison at 1,000 yards last year as a rookie with Nick Mullins slinging him the rock. I know Justin Jefferson wasn't out there, but that's still impressive. So, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's Minnesota, Green Bay, Chicago, and then the Lions. I think Green Bay, you have a receiver in Jaden Reed who can easily get 100 catches this year. Christian Watson's a guy that can easily get 1,000 yards this year, and Romeo Doubs is a guy that can get you 8-9 touchdowns. That's not all going to happen, but I think when you look at that, and then you got Bo Melton and Dontavion Wicks. There's not many teams in the NFL that can say that, and all those guys have the potential, the ceiling, the potential to be wide receiver 2s, and some of them 1s in the league. Like, there's really not a bad or anything on receiver wise for Green Bay. We're I don't know if I like that. That's one of the best wide receiver rooms from top to bottom in the NFL. Like Keenan Allen, very fine wide receiver, past his prime, put on a little bit of weight. I want to see how that turns out. He's still going to be good. Rome Odunze, I still think he has a lot of figuring out to do. I don't think he's going to have a Jordan Addison rookie year. And then DJ Moore is going to be good, but I'd say with the wide receiver 1s in this division, he's probably number 3.
There is not a reason not to have the Chicago Bears number 1 in the NFC North. They have the best 1, 2, 3 in the whole NFL. Yeah, bro, dude, they have the best.
No way. Houston does.
Dude, they have the best 1, 2. Like Keenan Allen and DJ Moore alone is just all right, you have 2 all-pro wide receivers. And it's not like they were just all pros 4 years ago. It's within the last few seasons. These guys are some of the best at their position. They're top 10. There are people who will argue both of those guys are top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. And Rome Odunze at some point in his career will be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. And then come on now. This is the best 1, 2. I am not a Bear. I hate the Bears. My least favorite team in all of football. They have the best core in the NFL. The Packers have dudes, but the Bears have guys who have done it and they're still doing it. There's no question about it. The Bears have got, or the Packers have guys. I get it, Klotz. They could do this. They could do this. They could. Could is cute. Did they do it? But DJ Moore did it. Keenan Allen did it. Those guys are literally
the best
in their position.
Good is cute. I'll remember that one. Okay.
That is
again, Klotz, at the end of the year, this list could easily change. Those guys could do it, but we're talking about today. Those guys have not done it yet. They have not. Some of those guys are good. Christian Watson has been hurt 75% of his career, but he's looked good, but he's been hurt. Imagine if DJ Moore looks good, but he doesn't play. No, DJ Moore has played and he has looked good, and he's an all-pro wide receiver. And I don't know, I guess in 2 and 3, I think it is the Packers, Vikings, and the Lions. Again, I'm in Rod, and I just want to see what J-Mo does. Once J-Mo goes out there and puts it out, you see it, then you're all right, they're moving up. But for me, it's just hey, Amon Ra could put you. He's probably him and Justin Jefferson in the division, in my opinion, the top 2. But it's just you need J-Mo needs to go out there and show it, and if he does it, then you can move him up. The Vikings. I go between the Vikings and Packers for 2 and 3. Either one. I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah, well, that's it's are you going with proven? Because the Packers got depth. They do have depth. That's what they have.
I would my preference is 3 guys that I believe could all be 1s right now. I think Rome wouldn't produce at a Justin Jefferson level or what I think Marvin Harrison could do. But I think he's an X. That dude is an X. But do you want the depth? Do you want the guys, a lot of potential? I don't know. I'll take the Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore, personally. Someone asked if you throw in tight ends, what would it do? I think if you threw in tight ends, it would put the Vikings first. It would have to be. Because they're already in the debate. And TJ Hawkinson, I think, just puts them at 1.
but I don't think it does much for the Lions. I mean, we can't really argue here. I mean, the wide receiver room with J-Mo's, with everyone wondering what he's going to do, you can't just put the team any higher than 4th right now.
Yeah, you just have to wait. You have to wait and see on that one.
Now, weapons, you can go up there.
Lions number 1.
Weapons, running backs, you can definitely go up there.
100%. I don't know. I take the same thing with the Lions with J-Mo as I do with the Packers. It's like they have we see a lot of potential out there. Let's see these guys do it. Let's see all of them do it together.
Hey, Pride of Detroit came out with their roster prediction, their mid preseason, who they think will make it. I want to show you guys who gets cut. All right, this is who is. I love this stuff.
There's one here that's crazy.
So they do quarterbacks. They only have 2 quarterbacks. Jeremy Reisman, shout out to Pride of Detroit. He puts Hendon Hooker and Jared Goff, only 2 quarterbacks. So that answers what we were talking about earlier. Jake Fromm, RIP.
Does he say anything about Sudfeld down there?
He does. Sudfeld cutting him and then bringing him back to the practice squad to still be in the quarterback meeting room. But that's it. And then running backs, he has 4. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, Sione Vaki. Nothing surprising. All right, Jamar Jefferson, Donovan Knight, Jake Funk's. The Jake Funk storyline's over.
Funk.
Doesn't make the team. And then you go wide receiver.
This is the one. He only keeps 4. He only keeps 4. That's it. That means that they bring someone
Brown,
in, right?
Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. We made it. The reason found all the guys competing. They did not. Isaiah Williams did not, according to just this preseason prediction. DPJ snuck in there, fellas. He's on that roster.
Yeah, what was it? What did he read down there? What did he type up? I want to know the type up here.
I don't really want to know. Maybe it's a deep breath.
Shout out Jeremy though.
He says you're not happy with this room. Eric's not happy with this room. I'm not happy with this room. And I think his thing is, Eric. He says even Eric believes that if he were to make the roster, it'd be a wide receiver 5, Isaiah Williams, and he mentions how a true X. And that's why DPJ made it, because he's a true X. Like if you did Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Khalif, and Isaiah, you don't have like a true X wide receiver. So that was kind of the biggest thing. That's why I mentioned earlier, they probably want him to work out so bad. So maybe
so do you.
Yeah. But maybe they keep DPJ, Isaiah, or maybe they keep Darius and Isaiah, whatever. They probably do need an X. At least just one dude, if it's DPJ or Darius. Either of those
if this happened, I still feel like they go out and they have to go get someone, right? You can't keep 4 guys in your how does that work? What is like 4 to 5 or 5, 6? I feel like it has to be 5.
Typically teams keep anywhere from like 4 to 6. Maybe they keep 6. I see teams keep 6 too. So you could keep. I wouldn't be shocked if they keep 5 or 6. I think he just put 4 here, but it fluctuates.
Maybe they keep 4 and go get someone.
I could see them keeping these 4 and adding maybe like even Isaiah and Ian Duri's found. They could keep 6 guys, 5, 6 guys. It just depends.
Do this right here. Keep Isaiah Williams and go get Hunter Renfrow. There's your room. Bang.
Talking with the 4 they have?
Keep the 4, maybe a Hunter Renfrow, or if you want to go Isaiah Williams.
It's way better.
I feel like 5 would be the right. That's crazy though. Isaiah Williams cut there. This is interesting too.
Tight end, they cut James Mitchell. They cut Sean McKeon, I think his name is.
I'm not familiar.
But they keep Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, and then Parker, good old Parker, and then Shane Zylstra. But that's the 4 they roll with. So I mean, not surprising. I mean, that's
James Mitchell's out.
Yeah, I mean,
he could have caught 3 touchdown passes. I still think this guy gets cut.
Yeah, he's fighting a battle. He's fighting an absolute battle right now. Yeah, and then you go to offensive tackle. It's about what we expect. Nothing surprising. Jamarco Jones, but Giovanni Manu, everyone's there. Nothing.
There you go. Giovanni.
And then this, I'm going to be honest, this too, nothing really surprising. Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler, Graham, Yodi, Christian Mahogany. That makes perfect sense. Everyone else cut.
Yeah.
That would mean Graham is really their only true, like, versatile center. Like, he could play center. No one else is really doing that. So,
Who was playing center this week? Do you know?
I know Duke or Brian Hudson are two centers.
Okay.
I don't know who was playing, but I know those guys play center. Defensive end. Oh no. Oh no.
Fits narrative.
Oh no.
Coming out of my pocket.
Matthew Betts and Isaac Ukwu do not make. They keep 4 defensive ends, which, I guess when we talk about defensive linemen, I think we brought up it was like 9 or something like that, 10. So defensive ends, they keep 4. And those are the 4 they roll with.
And probably as well. Yeah, that's it's interesting.
You're like, damn.
The most interesting part to me, and I want to hear what the chat thinks on this. It's just like with the Goudet, not even Betts. Like, I would take Betts out of there because I think you could get Betts on your practice squad. But with the Goudet and Ukwu, like, they've had a good preseason, and like Ukwu is essentially, I think he's a rookie, correct? Like a UDFA. So like,
yeah, yep.
These guys are young and they're putting up numbers and they're performing on the Lions, which is a good team. In the preseason, you would think, like, if you one of those guys don't make the team, one probably gets picked up. You probably lose them. That's just my thought. I would like to see where the people think about that. Like, if you put them on the practice squad, do one of them get picked up? But I'm
going to be honest. My take on that, I think Isaac gets picked up. Matty Betts, no. A Goudet, I can see it getting.
That's where, like, how many people was on that? How many edges were on that list? 4
make the team.
That's where it's like, for me, it's like maybe you keep a 5th and keep a Goudet or Ukwu, just so, like, hey, you have, like, like, the better one of the two is probably going to get picked up potentially, or could, and you're like, hey, we do need that depth. Like, we do, like, Marcus Davenport, we know his injury, we know his injury.
Jeremy even says, don't forget Levi's going to play plenty of edge.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, you have versatile guys, but like Josh Pascal, injury problems here and there. Marcus Davenport, career injury problems. James Houston has been dealing with injuries since last year, like throughout camp. So it's like, all right, so if is an injury that comes up, you probably need one of those guys to be a depth. And if your best edge that you end up cutting and putting on the practice squad, if someone picks up your best one, you probably want to make sure you have your best one on the roster, and you don't want to lose that. Mm-hmm. Whoever's the better of the two.
Yeah, and this, to me, I'm not gonna. Again, Jeremy, this is his opinion, which I do respect, and I actually do agree with his opinion here for the 4 he chose. Like, I think he's spot on. I think it'll be Aiden, Josh, Marcus, and James. But I agree with you, Boone. If they're going to keep one just because they don't want to let him go, it would be cool because of how he's played. So, I mean, defensive tackle, they keep 6. Lee McNeil, DJ Reader, Levi, Kyle Pecco, Broderick Martin, and good old Makai Wingo.
Yeah, shout out Makai. Makai's someone too probably can go in and out on the edge. So that's where I'm kind of happy with that. We haven't really seen him on the edge, though, have we, in preseason?
Yeah, he's Chris Smith and Pat O'Connor. I honestly don't even remember Pat O'Connor, if I'm being honest. I saw him get signed. I don't know. I know they love Kyle Pecco. And I know Levi's been making a lot of noise, so I like this little group. I think this is a solid group of defensive tackles, man. This is good. I like this. If there's an injury, you're comfortable. Like, that's why I'm not as mad about the DJ Reader stuff, because, like, pick your poison. Like, who do you want playing? You got Broderick Martin, Kyle Pecco can play, which he might be out there week 1. So
as soon as DJ Reader comes back, like, you have depth. Like they do. If you need to rotate, if you need guys to step in, like, you have that, which is really, it's comfortable. Like Broderick's been, I think Broderick is, like, he's starting to prove a little bit that he's going to be able to be a rotational guy. And outside of last year, he wasn't even close to it. And who did you bring in? Was it Bruce Irvin, or you just brought all these random guys in throughout the season because Broderick couldn't do anything? Like, you're not going to run into that issue this year.
Yeah, they got some depth here.
Same with Kyle Pecco. Shout out Kyle Pecco.
Hey, look at the linebacker room: Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm, and Jay Germ. Which that's exactly who they had last year. So
Yep.
Nothing surprising here. Malik Jefferson. That's the end of that era.
Some of those guys played tough too. Sucks for them.
Cornerback, this is where it gets interesting. Carlton Davis, Terran Arnold, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw, Khalil Dorsey, Kendall Vildor. And they cut Stephen Gilmore. I think Stephen might make the practice squad. We'll see. But he's gone. He's gone. But good old Kendall Vildor. Solid depth piece. He's where he should be. He's a depth piece. Very solid if he plays. You're comfortable with him for a game or a couple games. But I don't hate this cornerback room. It's upgraded way better than last year. I'll tell you that. Night and day difference.
The depth too. Like Kendall Vildor was at the obviously when he came in and you brought him in last year, instantly he had to go to the top of that. Now you have Carlton, Terrion, Amik, Ennis, you have all those guys ahead of him.
Four corners.
It'll take a lot for a guy like Kendall Vildor to really have to see the field this year. So you're sitting in a good spot with that at least. You
traded Cam Sutton for those four. It's wild.
Yeah. Did you?
Essentially.
Oh, I thought in my head I was thinking of an actual trade. I was like,
you handed them Cam. You handed whoever Cam Sutton, and they gave you back Carlton Davis, Terran Arnold, Meek Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw. So
you gave the football gods back Cam Sutton there. Take him, and we'll take
back.
Carlton and Terrion and those fellas.
Yep, we're good. And then
Khalil, real quick too. Khalil, we didn't talk about it on the show today. Khalil and Kendall Vildor and Amik, they look good Saturday. They look solid. Like Amik is a dog, dude. Amik is so good. Dan brought it up. Dan was like, "This dude Amik is
starting at nickel. That's what he's gonna do." Telling you, right? I've been telling you. The dude just loves football. Like he just fits what Dan Campbell, I think they love. Like dude loves football. Dude works his ass off. What did Corey Woods brought it up after practice, 200, whatever it is, the number after the practice on the jugs machine. Like he's the only corner Corey's ever seen while he's been covering the Lions that catches balls on the jugs machine as a corner. Like just built different. That's what he is.
And I do. I'm just gonna keep with the narrative. I like Khalil Dorsey and Kendall. I like Khalil Dorsey. So, dude plays really hard.
There you go. Safety. They keep 5. So Brian Branch, Kirby, Iffy, Brandon Joseph, CJ Moore. Good old CJ Moore. Just
Nice.
Yeah. He Lawrence Strickland, Garnes. Oh no, don't make the team.
No,
but this is
not Strickland.
Yeah, this is apparently Dan likes Strickland. He's been saying a lot of good things about him.
He's brought it up. He brought it up at the press conference again.
They like him a lot, but they got a good this safety room is about as expected. There's not really anything to take away here. And then specialists: Jack Fox, Jake Bates, Scott. There you go.
Hogan gets cut. That's tough, man. Poor Hogan, man. They said Hogan was a starting linebacker in college.
Yeah, I will say the new the depth chart there. Jeremy and Eric filled it out. Pride of Detroit. You can go check it out. Spot on. Like it fits everything of what I've been saying. What we've been talking about. I know Ukwu and Betts didn't make the roster, Boone, but you can see the reasoning. The reasoning. Not mad at it.
A lot.
DBJ makes the roster according to Jeremy. Fits my narrative, but continue. Sorry.
I would say there's a lot can change in the next 7 days. There's whole other game on Saturday. We have a whole nother game. Anything can happen. Who knows?
That guy up north says Brandon Joseph is going to make someone expendable by year's end. Book it, maybe a Melifonwu Kirby.
I don't know what that means.
Like he's going to make someone expendable. Like he's going to take someone's job and make them tradable.
Oh, definitely, bro. I don't get this Kirby stuff, man. Like I don't. I'll never get the Kirby backlash. The dude's had 4 to 5 interceptions every year for this team, and people want to get rid of him. I don't know if he'll make him expendable, but I think he will be a piece they're comfortable with for depth. You're talking about if you're talking about taking someone's job, he's playing safety. He's taking Kirby or he's taking Iffy's job, and I
I would say probably not this year. But it even mentions maybe you don't have to extend them. I mean, unless one of them's asking for an arm and a leg. I mean,
the Brandon Joseph and Ife Melifonwu conversation is kind of interesting to me because, like, they both played the last 2 games, and Brandon Joseph just keeps standing out. And it's like we don't really hear much from Ife. And it's just like you would think what he did to end last year, like in a preseason game, he would just like dominate to enough to where you're like, yeah, we don't need to see anymore. But like maybe he's playing just because you need guys out there. But you would still like, all right, if you're playing, like we want to see what you did before. And we just maybe it's because he's not in the same position. Like AG's not sending him on as many blitzes and putting him in the positions he did last year. But it's just an interesting, like the Brandon Joseph stuff's interesting to me because he's been showing out. He's been showing out.
Yeah, they love him. He's good backup for Kirby. He's a perfect free safety backup.
Mm-hmm.
Who was there before him?
Will Harris. Will Harris. I'm trying to think who the safety. Yeah, no, I think it was just literally Will Harris. Yeah, and if he would kind of rotate there, but Kirby's not a guy who gets hurt that much either.
No, he's not. Well, I see people attributed. Xavier says Ife is elite. I'm not too worried about Ife. I think he's kind of. I mean, I get what you're saying. You want to see more of him. I think he's one of those guys that once you get in the regular season, once you get football going, that stuff will probably. You're not really going to talk about it as much. So.
It was like at training camp when we were there, and Brian Branch was out. The guy to step in, you would have thought it was going to be Ife because that Brian Branch took Ife's spot, and you're like, all right, Ife's going to step back in, and it was Brandon Joseph, and we're all like. I was like, I think we were there with Easy and Spenny, and you were like, dude, what's going on? Like, why is Brandon Joseph in that spot if he's not? That was a little bit where.
I don't know this for a fact, but this is just my opinion on training camp. When you're there at training camp and you're watching or you're reading news, I think a lot of it is experimenting, and I could be wrong, but I that's my takeaway on it. Like I think there'll be times where they're like, let's put Brandon Joseph with the ones and see if he floats. Like I think that could be reasoning. Like you put Matty Betts. Remember Matty Betts was working with the ones. It's like let's see if the guy can float with the ones, like or he sinks. You know. Like I don't. I try not to look too much into like certain things. Like there are things you look into, like Darius Fountain playing with the ones for as long as he did. It's like, oh wow, he's impressing. But then like Brandon Joseph, is he better than Ife? I would say no. But
no, yeah, I
just think that either. I'm not saying you're saying that, but
no, I think it's just you saw the week he had before that, and then they followed it up with, hey, he had such a good game Thursday. All right, we're gonna see what he does, and he went out there and he was holding his own with the ones. I think that just shows more so the depth in the safety room. Like you do have Brian Branch now, you have Kirby Joseph, and then you have Ife and Brandon Joseph coming off the bench there. Like that's pretty good. Like you feel really comfortable. Besides like last year, like I guess last year essentially, who did you have? You had CJ Gardner-Johnson, and then you also had that he was hurt, Tracy Walker, Will Harris. Like it's an upgrade. It feels like.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have, and I see people still talking about Kirby Joseph. I see this dad with Tourette's. In 8 starts, Kirby has 8 interceptions, 19 pass deflections. He has done 0 of both in the other 24. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get the Kirby disrespect either, honestly. I really don't. I don't. Oh, you're muted, Klotzy.
Oh, no, Klotzy.
What do you expect him to have? 24 interceptions? Like, you name me the amount of players that have done that in the NFL, just had 8 interceptions over the last couple of years. Like, there's not that many. He's not the best in run protection or run defense, but that's not why you have him at free safety. That's why you have guys like that at strong safety. That's why if Melifonwu, Brian Branch. There's not many zone safeties in the NFL that can cover the field like Kirby Joseph. Both the film and the stats prove it. You can't go out in free agency or via trade right now and get a safety that's going to fit what this team defensively needs better than Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph is probably a top 10 free safety in the NFL, not safety, but free safety. And I think when you look at the secondary, Kirby Joseph has not been a weakness in the secondary, even though there's been liabilities everywhere at corner. So it makes him have to be in a tougher position when you don't have good corners helping you out on the front side of it all. So
I think having Kirby out there has to make quarterbacks even more nervous. Like that's why you love a guy like that at safety. I mean, he just has to. When you're there, if you're game planning as a quarterback, you're playing the Detroit Lions defense. Yeah, the secondary's bad. Last year it was, but you have to we have to watch out for Kirby Joseph. Like know where he is at all times. So like, I think that has to bring some value. Like if you're going off 24 games in total,
yeah.
Or what was his point? It was in the other 24. So what does it be like 32? Is that what he's saying? 32?
I don't know.
Games, whatever.
I would just
eight
like,
interceptions. How many games has he played in his career? That's what I want to see. But if you do the math, 8 interceptions by, let me see here.
Right now.
Yeah, 8 interceptions and 19 pass deflections and 29 starts. It says 29 starts. It's pretty good. But
guys, like this guy, he's had 4 interceptions in both years. Like how many? Like I would love to see how many secondary players have had 4+ interceptions in the first 2 years of like in the last 2 seasons. I'm gonna probably I'm gonna probably go look at it tonight. Like
he played wide receiver too
good
in college, I think, or he played something else and then he transitioned to safety. So
yeah, in the last 2 seasons, bro, like the last 2 seasons, most interceptions the last 2 seasons. Deron Bland 14, Jesse Bates 10, Justin Simmons 9, Rasul Douglas 9, Tariq Woolen 8, and Kirby Joseph 8. And then Tyrann Matthew 7, Patrick Peterson 7. Like that's your list right there over the last 2 seasons. So he is, that's a pretty good list to be on. Those are some good names to be a part of.
Like they don't win that Packers game without. There's numerous games that aren't won without Kirby Joseph on this team.
yeah, and I know, and I'm not denying, and to add Rhett's point, like I get the there'll be times in pass coverage where he's not, but that's not his role though. He's not supposed to be. He's not like a lockdown safety. He's a guy he's a playmaker. He's going to make plays for you. Like that's his role. Brian Branch, on the other hand, he can do a lot of things. That's why you have him. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I saw this on the prep too. Like CeeDee Lamb, what's going on with him in Dallas? Apparently, they still haven't worked out a deal. Could be traded. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to trade him. They want to agree to a deal. He posted some cryptic message on his Instagram story, and now you have like FanDuel tweeting out a potential deal that he could go to the Packers. Not that it's real, but it was a proposed trade of them, like what they would have to give up. It'd be like Christian Watson and picks, a first-round pick, whatever. I don't think Dallas would ever do that. But CeeDee Lamb still has not agreed to a contract. I swear, Dallas Cowboys, the narratives we've made, the bold predictions, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. They'll fall just short. They'll win like 8 games and fall short. Booner, you said that they might even suck so bad they might get in the top 5 pick range.
Yeah. I mean, without CeeDee Lamb,
I don't know what's going on.
You don't have CeeDee Lamb. What is that? Who does that offense have without CeeDee Lamb? Like the legit, like CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson, like a great tight end, but like, dude, you're sitting there. CeeDee Lamb is your offense. It is CeeDee Lamb. Like I don't know how Jerry Jones has just not just said it. Like eventually, the crazy part about this, and this is why I think he's not going to be with the Cowboys this year. And I bet you, as I say this, like tomorrow he signs. But you're going through this whole contract thing. It's different between Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb because Brandon Ayuk, they have Deebo Samuel and they just drafted a wide receiver and they have George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. But like with CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys, you have to pay your best player. Like he is your offense. And if you're going to pay him in a month, why not just have paid him 3 weeks ago? Like you're going to end up, no matter what's going to happen, like Jerry Jones is going to probably, if he keeps him, he's going to give him the money that he's asking for. Like, just get it done. Like, that's why I think he's gone. And I don't think CeeDee Lamb's messing around. I think CeeDee Lamb's, I'm done with this because like they should have had a deal done at this point by now. There's no way you're 3 weeks away from week 1 and you're not paying the best player on your football team, maybe outside of Michael Parsons, but like your best offensive player. And you just have not signed him yet. It's a weird situation. Like I think it's completely different than the Brandon Ayuk thing because the Brandon Ayuk thing, they have weapons.
What does this even mean?
I don't know.
Anybody good at reading this stuff? Like, I'm asking. I don't know what this means. But Jamar Chase also hasn't gotten a deal. So
yeah, but I don't think Jamar Chase has really been pressed for it. I mean, Jamar Chase isn't pounding the table for a new deal. I think they realized they had to deal with T. Higgins first, and Jamar is intelligent enough to know that, hey, I'm on a top 5 pick contract. Like, I have a lot more money than T does right now, and they need to figure out what they need to do with him before they sign me. CeeDee Lamb, though, I mean, he has every right to ask for money because he is their offense. And if I saw a report that they reportedly offered him $33 million, and if you think CeeDee Lamb's going to sign for the extension of basically the prime of his career for $33 million and there's wide receivers in the NFL making more, like Jerry Jones is just batshit crazy. And I think it's proving day by day that Jerry's world is crumbling slowly. Like if they don't sign CeeDee, there's no chance that they make the playoffs. There's no chance that they even get, the Commanders would be a better team than them offensively and defensively. 100%. So I think the Giants, Like the Cowboys without CeeDee, the Giants have a better offense by itself with Malik Neighbors, like just by default. Like I like Jake Ferguson, that's fine. I mean, I say he's a good player, but Rico Dowdle would honestly be their second most explosive player after Brandon Cooks. And like that's an issue, especially when you have a quarterback with Dak Prescott, who his whole career has been surrounded by talent since he stepped foot in the NFL.
I think 33 would make him the second highest paid.
He's got to be the first. Like CeeDee Lamb should be the first paid wide receiver right now, the highest paid.
Justin Jefferson got 35, and then AJ's making like 32. So yeah, he'd probably have to get 35 and a half or 35.1.
It's like, are you really like, you're talking about CeeDee Lamb here? Are you really fighting over $2 million, $3 million? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
That. I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. All right, my whole computer screen just went black for a second. It was the craziest thing, and then I heard a siren, like it was like a tornado. I was a little nervous. I thought I was about to die. And we saw that Twisters movie. I was like, "What is it? Like, come on, boys!" Yeah. I was like, "Oh man, Jason. It's over."
Jason,
no, Klotz, I'm with you. I don't know. I caught the end of what you said there. It's just like, hey, that's why again, I don't think this gets done. Is if you were gonna sign a deal in 3 weeks, it's gonna be the deal that you probably we're going to have to give him a month ago. And it's like the fact that they just haven't done it is just unbelievable. It's insane. It's legit. It is crazy. They're literally like, they're going to get a top. I think this Jerry Jones thing that I said last week, like they're going to get a top 5 pick because he wants Shedeur Sanders. And I think like he knows it. And I feel like that's why they're not paying him.
He ain't going to watch Shedeur play out his rookie contract though. Like the man's not going to be able to be an owner in 5 years of this team. And if you don't re-sign CeeDee, who's Shedeur going to be throwing to? Yeah. Like, I think you sign CeeDee Lamb and you bring in a rookie quarterback, that's perfect because now you have the money to go bring other tools. You don't have to worry about Dak contract. Like, at least make your stance clear. Like, I think even the players would respect that. Like, if you're not going to re-sign me, let me know that.
Mally Mall says it's not the money, it's the structure of it with CeeDee. Cowboys fan, I believe. So yeah, I mean, that's usually what it is. It's like the technicalities, or like, you know, what's in the writing. They'll probably have a deal done. Dak, on the other hand, I don't know what's going on with that. That's a whole nother thing. Let's get the mailbag. Keitho says, mailbag thoughts on how Manu played against the Chiefs. I think he looked good. I can't speak as much. I was busy during the game, so I was.
He looked better. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he gave up a sack, did he? He gave up a couple of pressures.
Yeah, I don't know the exact stats. I just think like more so just the whole offensive line as a whole, like all those backups, they all as a whole all game. Like Nate Sudfeld had time, Hendon Hooker had time. I think Hooker got sacked once maybe, and Sudfeld they were moving around a little bit, but like as a whole, even Dan said it in the press conference. He was like, "This offensive line deserves credit because from what they did last week and then bouncing back this week, they looked, especially like you got to think about it in the first quarter going up against the whole Chiefs first team offensive line." You're sitting there and defensive line, I apologize, but you're sitting there going up against that and you're able to kind of hold your own for a few possessions as well. Like I thought they played well. I don't know about Manu as an individual. Like Colby, I think Colby played a lot better as well too.
It's great to hear that guy up north. Mailbag, what's going on with Christian Mahogany? What, quote, illness, end quote, has kept him away from the team? Wasted pick. I hope not. Liked him in college. Let's be real here. I like Christian Mahogany. If he is a wasted pick, who cares? Drafted him in the 6th round, late. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it happens. Not going to hit on every 6th round pick. I would say the illness. My guess, this is not from anything inside source or anything. This is just from what I've observed. It seems to be more of like a mental thing. I don't know because it just seemed like he was doing like virtual meetings. I think he was actually sick. And then after that, he wasn't showing up and no one was really reporting anything. I don't really know, to be honest. It's a weird situation. But again, if it is wasted, boys, that's part of the business. Yeah, I mean, that's 6th round pick. You're not going to hit them all. To be honest, though, I don't even think I think he's going to end up being fine. Like like the way my mind worked with it was just more so like thinking about like drafting like a guy in the 6th round. Like he probably could have gone way earlier. So you got to steal already in the 6th round. And it's just like drafting the guy that like may have had a knee injury or some sort of injury. And you knew like, hey, we're going to draft him, but we know that he's probably not going to be fully ready for camp
but when he gets in, he's, we know the player he is. Like, that's what I feel like with Christian Mahogany. It's like, I feel like more so it's the side of where, hey, we like that happens a lot with players. Like, you see guys sitting out now, even in the NFL. Obviously, those are guys who have proven something already, but there are rookies all the time who would say, hey, they missed camp because like a team drafts them and know like, hey, there's an injury here. We probably won't get them for the full camp, or there's probably a week left, or you know what I mean? Like, so that's where I just think with Mahogany, I think they know the type of player he is. And like, they know like, hey, once he gets back in shape and once he gets going again, he's going to be able to go out there and do something for us eventually. So I don't think there's going to be any concern in the future for him.
All
It's
right,
a developmental guy, at least for a year.
See the next one. Mike Reed, any of you guys going to the Lions game Saturday? We will not. We'll be live watching it. I'll be there.
Yeah. What time's the
Tuning in,
game at?
I don't know that. Be facing the
1
Steelers,
p.m.
who actually, if I'm being honest, guys, side note, Steelers aren't making the playoffs.
We
They're
say
making
that
the
every
playoffs.
year, but they made the playoffs with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges.
That offense with their starters, atrocious.
I think got
Absolutely
even a chance.
atrocious.
I agree with you. It looks bad, but like
Oh my
Justin
God.
Fields is not going to be the quarterback for that team. I think that's what we learned, that Justin Fields is not the quarterback. I don't think Russ just falls apart. I don't think Russ is great, but I just think they need an average quarterback to make the playoffs usually. That's what they have, and I think Russ is probably the best quarterback since Big Ben.
They got a good defense.
They do.
God.
They will get the final spot in the AFC playoffs. That's a fact. They will.
That's,
They
I
always
think,
do
the
this final.
ceiling.
They will. They are like it's weird. Like, they're in the quarter. Like, they haven't named their quarterback yet. They're like one. I saw a graphic today. There's 3 teams who hasn't named a QB1, and the Steelers are one of them.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
you're choosing between ass and ass. That's
and
what
Dan O came out this morning and said Justin Fields QB1, and I was like, whoa, like that threw
That'd
me
be
a little
crazy.
wrench. So it's a weird situation going on.
Burning Issue says, Mailbag, knowing how often cornerbacks get injured, would you take a top 12 to 15 quarterback room with starters everywhere, or a top 5 CB room with 2 starters and nothing behind them?
I'd probably go with the depth, because that's, if you look at teams that win like Super Bowls and stuff, they usually have multiple guys. But then, I mean, you look at the Seattle Seahawks, they didn't really have much depth with the Legion of Boom, and those guys just were consistently healthy. So I don't know. It's tough. Obviously depends on like the front 7, but I'll switch it up. I'll probably go top 5 because it's a strength, like when healthy. I don't think there's many teams, obviously, for the top 5 that can do that.
It sounds like a terrible cop out, but like, I got some pass rushers because I'll take that top 12 to 15 with the depth if I can get after the quarterback.
Ooh, give me a Hutch Defensive Player of the Year, and then give me a top 12 to 15 room.
Yeah, because it depends. If you're not getting pressure, I don't give a damn about those 2 starters. They're going down anyway.
I mean,
but,
hey,
question.
To be honest, you were 23rd in pass defense last year, and you were number 2 in rush defense. So like, hey, I'll take top 12 to 15 if you still have the number 2 rush defense, and you have those pass rushers and 12 to 15 pass defense. I'm all in for that.
Steve leaving Mailbag. I know we love the idea of going to the Super Bowl, but is there even a small amount of concern about this far tougher schedule in our bye week being week 5? Absolutely. For me, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I think when you look at it, maybe not for like the Super Bowl chances, but maybe at like the over-under of like the win-loss, I still think that this team wins the division because all the teams in this division play a very similar schedule. So when you look at like the Texans and players and teams like that, like the Packers got to go against them. So it's a tougher schedule for a lot of the NFC North. Lions obviously the toughest because they're the number 1 seed in the NFC North, but I don't think as far as shaping up the whole schedule. Week 5 bye is a little concerning, but again, teams have that every year.
Hey guys, not worried about the schedule.
Yeah,
Booner Path, number 1 seed, in the Super Bowl runs through Detroit. You get 2 home. You'll have 2 home games in Ford Field again this year. It'll be the divisional round and the NFC Championship. We won't have to worry about a watch party at Ford Field at all this year. Well, maybe for the Super Bowl, but you're not going to have to worry about a watch party for the NFC Championship this year. They're going to go win 13 games on the schedule.
I don't hate it.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Well, we appreciate you guys locking us into your nightly viewing, 8 to 10 every single weekday. Also, we're about 15 subs away from 9,000 guys. 15 subs. We're about 8,985, I think we're at. 15 subs. Tell a friend. You know, hey, some guys
Send it out to someone.
Be like, hey, subscribe to these fellas. They're doing some good things. All right, go support them. Also, get our merchandise. It's available. Got more merch coming out. We just came out with our visor, which I'm going to preview that. It's a visor. It depends. If you're into them, we got them. It's the official Crunch Time Sports visor. Hold on. Good quality visor. Very good quality.
Very fine quality.
Look at this visor. I mean, the thing is
Oh,
I mean, it fits. One size fits all. Get your visor. Officialctsports.com.
oh.
I mean, guys, look at this thing. You're out there. You're wearing a visor. All the ladies are looking. Or if you're a woman, all the men, they're checking it out. All right.
Maybe we need a Booner Path visor too, huh? Mike Reed?
Yeah. I like this. All right. We got the
Love
visor
it.
out. Also, for those who ordered merch, your orders are being processed. I checked them today. So sorry. I know it takes some time. Forgive us for the wait. I wish we can get it to you in days. But they're on our way. They're being processed. I check them every day to make sure they're on their way. So to all those who ordered merchandise, they are on their way. Not too long. Be patient. But Booner, what's up?
Two things real quick before we go. One, I saw this. I'm going to look into getting bricks. I'm going to look into getting bricks for the Booner Path so that people can get bricks with the Booner Path and carved in them for Detroit Lions Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. And number two, there's 200 people watching. Before we leave, hit the like button for the we should have 200 likes. Everyone who's just listening and just has us on, just hit it. All right, love you guys.
All right, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your night. Stay blessed. Don't forget, like I said, tell a friend or a loved one to subscribe. We're almost there. Can't wait. We're almost at 10,000. Let's keep it pushing. Until tomorrow, we'll see you guys.
Love you guys.
Peace.